The American people continue to reject Israel's genocidal war in Gaza. We have 70 cities all across the United States that passed resolutions calling for a ceasefire. All 70 of those cities are agents of Hamas. We also seen recent polling that showed the majority of the American people want a ceasefire in Gaza. Majority of Americans are agents of Hamas. What's very interesting about these numbers is that they go completely counter to the corporate media narrative regarding the Israel-Gaza war. You want to know what's truly shocking about this poll? The main driver of Zionism in the United States, evangelical Christians, 58% of them support a ceasefire in Gaza. Majority of evangelical Christians are agents of Hamas. Bro, do you guys have any idea how much Israel is fucking up if they are losing white evangelical Christians? What's also truly damning to Zionism is the fact that we have half of American Jewish people who call for a ceasefire as well. Those Jewish Americans are agents of Hamas? Do you guys see how Zionism as an ideology is used as a fascist tool to silence the voices of peace-loving Jewish people? What does this say about this sham of a democracy, this capitalist dictatorship, that we allow a genocidal apartheid state to override the will of the American people? What's popping, brother? What's popping? Who could have saw who when we created RBN less than 3 years ago? Who could have saw this coming? You had a group of young black radical organizers who created a YouTube channel, and we were screaming from the top of our lungs from the very beginning, "Fuck electoral politics," right? I might write a Substack about this because my experience over the last year has been crazy, my friend.
Mm-hmm. I know.
Between the Marianne Williamson meltdown that went viral, and then the No, if I would told you I was beefing with Dr. Cornel West a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, what? Because we came out and we told everyone on the left, fuck electoral politics. So then you had all these grifters who was intimidated. So then they try to infiltrate us because I cannot emphasize enough. And what everyone is forgetting about this whole experience I am dealing with in my life is that both candidates, Marianne Williamson and Dr. Cornel West, asked to come on RBN, not the other way around.
Why do you think I don't mean to cut you off here because I want to give the floor back to you, but why do you think that was? You think it's because like maybe you would have been starstruck or something like that? Because that's always a big question mark for me. Like when I've had like some high profile guests on my show too, like be they running for office, like are you expecting me to just be quiet or subservient? Because that's a pretty big deal. Marianne Williamson, Dr. Cornel West, because Dr. Cornel West has been on our show as well. But I was just wondering if that was the case, they were trying to manipulate you
That's why Marianne Williamson supporters, I was like, Nick was so mean to Marianne Williamson. Aren't you supposed to treat your guests nice? And like, she asked to come on our show. I didn't want to talk to her. At no point did I ever want to talk to Marianne Williamson. Look it up. She responded to my tweets where I was critical of her, and a lot of her supporters were like, Nick, why won't you have Marianne Williamson on? Why won't you have Marianne Williamson on? And then she herself replied to my tweet like, hey, I'm available. Can I come on? So she asked to come on my show, and then people wonder why I was so hard on her. I'm like, you're not going to waste my fucking time not answering questions, fucking filibustering, and that is exactly why I had the tone and direction towards her that I did. The same with Dr. Cornel West, who found my article on Substack. They asked to come on RBN. His wife hit us up. I didn't hit him up. They hit us up to come on RBN. And people are like, why do you guys get so friendly with Dr. Cornel West in the PLT class? They wanted to get friendly with us. This is a giant part of the story. You getting breaking news, kid.
Hey, our Lens Media. Hey, I say start your morning right and righteously angry. Hey, spill the tea.
I give my boy Kid a scoop because I'm gonna start telling these stories because Dr. West had no idea who he's fucking with. He had no idea how easy I was taking it on him.
God damn.
He's the one who reached out to me because he realized that we had a message that was important for him to infiltrate. And he attempted to infiltrate RBN, and we called his cornball ass out. You're not going to infiltrate RBN. You're not going to corrupt us. So think about it, kid. These are two people who wanted to run for president. These are two people who wanted to run for president. And we are a group that's saying, fuck electoral politics, don't vote. So what they do, they want to infiltrate our organization to turn it around. And I'm like, and me being nice, I'm like, okay, I want to be in community with anyone who's willing to talk with me. So I bring Cornel West and Marianne Williamson. Well, let's focus on Cornel West more because he's more recent. Cornel West, I'll bring him in, knowing that he is to my right. Knowing that he's to my right. But I told you guys, I am not willing to cancel people. Kid, how consistent have I been? I have told you guys many times before that if you don't agree with me on politics, I am not willing to cancel you. I am willing to help guide you along the path. I'm in community with you. I want to talk with you. And I have got many criticisms from people on my left, people who are Marxists and communists, who was like, Nick, why are you giving this cornball any attention? And I am willing to admit, like a fucking man in front of everybody, like I said on my last live stream, that those people was right. I was wrong.
You know, I got to push back on that. You know, here.
What's popping, my friends? Big shout out to my homie Kid at Harlan's Media, who kills the damn game. Part of my post-duopoly family. Kid from Harlan's Media, our brothers that do dissidents, and obviously my brother CJ and our friends at RBN. And another thing we were talking about on this stream, which is definitely going to happen. I'm going to make sure I do everything in my power to make this happen. You're going to have post-duopoly live in Chicago in August around the DNC convention. So I know you guys enjoy the post-duopoly panels we be having with Kid, our brothers do dissidents, and the post-duopoly show. So imagine seeing that live, fam. We are cooking that up. We are in the lab right now. Now you guys gonna see my friend Kid gonna have some pushback on me regarding this because I had many people who warned me about what Cornball West and what Marianne Williamson was going to do. And I want to show you guys this part of our conversation. I'm going to show you guys some more because this is something that is plainly obvious to me. As other people were chasing access, we were trying to run away from access as much as we can. Because the message of RBN was fuck politicians and fuck electoral politics, don't vote. So these people who planned on running in the first place, what they wanted to do is come in and change our mind. They saw RBN as a threat to They saw RBN as a threat to their future ambitions of sheep herding a radical left-leaning population into their vanity campaigns. So I brought these people in the kindness of my heart, as I explained here. But before we get Zoya in, because Zoya is love, Zoya is life, we have a ton of foreign policy stuff to cover. I want to show you guys this part of this interview where I talk about this. And also, I think this conversation I had with Kit was a banger. You know what I mean? Not just only Nick at Night having bangers after bangers. My boy Kit has bangers after bangers. And when I go on the show, you already know it's going to be a banger. So make sure you guys check out the whole thing. But I want you guys to watch this. I'm not gonna play all of it. I want you guys to see the first segment because Kid is the first person who interviewed me about all this stuff, which is crazy, as I explained. I'm gonna go back a little bit. I want you guys to hear Kit push back to what I was saying here. I want to be in community with anyone who's willing to talk with me. So I bring Cornel West and Marianne Williamson. Well, let's focus on Cornel West more because he's more recent. Cornel West, I'll bring him in, knowing that he is to my right. Knowing that he's to my right. But I told you guys, I am not willing to cancel people. Kid, how consistent have I been? I have told you guys many times before that if you don't agree with me on politics, I am not willing to cancel you. I am willing to help guide you along the path. I'm in community with you. I want to talk with you. And I have got many criticisms from people on my left, people who are Marxists and communists, who was like, Nick, why are you giving this cornball any attention? And I am willing to admit, like a fucking man in front of everybody, like I said on my last live stream, that those people was right. I was wrong.
You know, I got to push back on that. You know, here's the thing. Okay. When you say you were wrong, okay, I guess maybe it could be viewed as a judgment of character on Cornel West's part. But I think you did the right thing as not only a host and a showrunner, but you did your job to have somebody of a different perspective on your show. Now, of course, I get the same kind of criticism too. Don't talk to libertarians. I've been told by people, don't interview libertarians, don't interview these people, don't interview that people. I've had Larry Sharp on my show, but guess what? Roger Meadows, who follows your show, follows my show, he convinced Larry Sharp about, hey, about citizen ballot initiatives and public banks and all that other good stuff. And they both are two different political spectrums. I think, first of all, you apologize. That's fine. I don't think you should have apologized. I think you did the right thing by having Cornel West on your show and having other guests on your show. I'm pretty sure you've interviewed people that you disagree with, but you did your job. So I hear where you're coming from, and you know what? But I think you did everything of your best ability to do your job, to interview somebody. And I think you're also right and also self-reflecting, because I've made that mistake too, where I've had to apologize to people saying like, hey, you know what? Maybe I shouldn't interview that person, but you did it. And I think you did a fine job, and I wouldn't be too hard. Don't be too hard on yourself. From me to you, because I've been doing this since 2017.
I explained many times before, guys, I'm a softy at heart, and I've been burnt because I have this thing where I look at
I hear you. I hear you.
You know what I mean?
I got that problem too, but you know what? You did the job. And so I didn't mean to cut you off here, but I didn't mean
to. He's a disgusting person, man. He uses celebrity and his clout to try to smear us and erase our blackness. He don't understand. He made an enemy for life, bro. You don't fuck with me. Don't fuck with my crew. He had no idea what the beast he has awakened. So why would you, all the media channels, 99% of YouTube channels focus on electoral politics because the majority of them are unserious. So out of all the YouTube channels you could come on to, why would you guys try to come on RBN and try to convince us to vote for your dumb ass when we've been saying for 2 to 3 years now that we don't believe in electoral politics? And then they turn around to the people like, oh my God, RBN is mean to me. What do you expect? And with that said, we wasn't even that mean to them. We just object to them. The difference between me and that coward, Dr. Cornel West, oh, sorry, I forgot. I took his doctorate away, Cornball West. The difference between me and him is that when I brought him on our show, I called him out to his face for voting for Joe Biden. I called him out to his face for his Putin derangement syndrome. And every time I called him out, he was like, yeah, brother, you bring some good points. I'll pray on that. You guys know that this academic fraud, this intellectual coward, never brought up his criticism to me, to my face. Why did he say? Remember, he said we was on the Jimmy Dore plantation.
Oh yeah.
Listen, kid. Listen, I'll bring you right in. Listen. I'll bring you right in. Listen. He said that we on the Jimmy Dore plantation because we don't criticize Russia enough. That is what he said on Bad Faith Podcast. So he's saying that O'Malley from the Black Uhuru Socialist Movement, who said he is in solidarity with Russia, he's calling them the Jimmy Dore plantation. And when I brought up why I don't focus on Russia, why didn't he say I was on the Jimmy Dore plantation to my face? Because I'm quote unquote soft on Russia. You cornball. Why didn't he call me out in my face? He couldn't, because that's all these PMC cowards do. They talk shit behind your back, and they never had the coward to the dignity to debate, to actually have their idea challenged. But sorry, kid, I want to get you in. I just want to make that point.
Yeah, well, because you brought the Jimmy Dore plantation, and when I heard him say that, I think on Bree's show, but on a few other shows too, just that's kind of an insult, because then you're assuming that Jimmy Dore is on the phone line for RBN. Last I checked, Revolutionary Blackout Network was founded by you, Nick, CJ, Rome, Jay, and the rest of the crew of Revolutionary Blackout Network. I don't see the word Jimmy Dore in there. And the thing is, I think the reason why he brought that up is because there was that infamous interview that he had with Jimmy Dore where Jimmy asked him, well, who's advising you? And at the time, I think a lot of us were taken aback that Peter Dow was associated with his campaign. And look where his campaign is at now. I mean, you're supposed to get on the ballot. You're supposed to be focused. You had the Green Party. The Green Party, as at least to the best of my knowledge, at least on 21 ballots right now, ballot access is key. Why would you throw it all away? And you brought some very good points when you were co-hosting with Rome on your live stream. And I had to sit down and watch that thing twice. Like my jaw was still on the floor in regards to the fact that you had the Green Party, all right? And I have my criticism of the Green Party, but at least they have ballot access, just like with the Libertarians. They got 48 states. Ballot access, that's key if you want to be part of electoral politics, but you're going to throw it all away and run as an independent because you were being advised by Dow, and I think he couldn't really take that criticism, and then he starts coming after you guys for your criticism of him when he was commenting on that the situation of of Putin's rival who passed away.
Yeah, I'm 100% convinced Cornel West is an op designed to siphon this growing left-wing third-party movement and turn it ineffective. That's what he was designed to do. And before I expound on that more, I want to get back to the Jimmy Dore plantation, because you just mentioned how the Jimmy interview where Dr. Cornel West made an ass of himself, and he had a meltdown because Jimmy Dore asked who's advising him. And he's like, how dare you rob me of my freedom of thought as a black man? I'm not advised by anyone. Like, so for one, let's look at this, and this is what I criticize Cornel West for. You are a presidential candidate. You should have advisors, sir. If I was running for office, I had Rome as my advisor, Kit would be my advisor, Missy would be my advisor, Snappy would be my advisor, JB would be my advisor. I would have a mountain of advisors, because this is not about me. So that was one of the first signs that this guy is a fucking narcissist beyond belief, that he's running for the highest office of all time, but you don't have a fucking advisor, you deeply unserious clown. Who the fuck does that? Now, take that point aside. He was like, how dare you rob me of my freedom of thought as a black man? So you notice the first thing he does to us is exactly what he accused Jimmy Dore of doing to him. He robs us, he robs Jamu, he robs Margaret Kimberly, and he robs the entirety of Black Twitter and everyone who called his cornball ass out for praising the white supremacists by saying that we on the Jimmy Dore plantation, erasing our blackness. Why do they bring up Jimmy Dore? No reason really, except the fact that he's an easy target that is already hated by shit libs. He is a charlatan, a narcissist, and an intellectual fraud, the likes we have never seen. And I am shocked beyond belief, because once you get to know this guy, you realize all these people that know this guy and spoke out against him was right. Michael Eric Dyson was wrong on the substance on Obama, but Michael Eric Dyson said he was a charlatan. Jimmy Dore called him out as a charlatan. We call him out as a charlatan. This guy is a class warrior, sister soldier, and all these people was right about him. I think I can stop it there. I had a fun time on Heartland's Media, as I always do. I want to make you show you guys at least the first segment. Big shout out to Kit. And you guys know that we took Cornball West's doctorate degree away because we don't respect these people's title, which lead to them essentially just repeating CIA propaganda and talking points. So as Dr. Cornel West and Breonna Joy Gray was repeating the narrative that Putin and Russia had Navalny killed for no reason, why will you come to that conclusion? I'm going to bring my friend in Zoya, and I talk about this with Misty. It made no sense for Putin to kill Navalny, given the timing, given what was going on. It is such an intellectually weak analysis to come to the conclusion that Putin killed Navalny. Navalny had a lot of enemies in Russia. Did you know that, Dr. Cornel West? Did you know that, Breonna Joy Gray? When you guys repeated this bullshit uncritically? Do you guys know how many people wanted this guy dead because he's a Nazi who betrayed his country to the CIA? I'm not even saying that Putin didn't prefer him dead. But the idea that Putin has a blood clot gun, a blood clot ray of some kind, and got this man killed at the worst possible timing is absurd to say. So here's the information that you get on this show that you're not getting from Cornball West. This is what you're not getting from people who have doctorate degrees. This is not the information you're getting from people who have master's degrees. This is not information you're getting from people who graduate from the Ivy League. This is information you get on proletariat networks. You know, the quote-unquote independent media that Dr. Cornel West mirrors? HUR chief Budanov, hopefully I'm saying that correct, confirms Navalny died of detached blood clot. So, Zoya, you are our Russia analysis expert. Well, what they call him on CNN? Our Russia analysis specialist, expert. Yeah, our Russia expert. You guys know we got Zoya's Love, Zoya's Life. Do they got a blood clot gun of some kind, Zoya, in Russia that I didn't know about?
Well, in America, we blame Russia for everything. If you've got a flat tire, you're gaining weight, your boyfriend doesn't love you, blame Putin. So, hello, RBN
Stop
fam.
it. Zoya's love, Zoya's life is here.
I mean, obviously he died of natural causes, but if you only listen to CNN, like a former Dr. Cornel West, Dr. Nick,
He hates independent media. He trusts corporate media, Zoya. Big fan.
Uncritically, he criticized Russia, China, and Iran. This is
the same countries they want us to hate. But sorry, go ahead, Zoya.
It's just establishment talking points, and I don't know how you can present yourself in opposition to empire while parroting everything that empire supports. He's still repeating the propaganda that we've heard for years, vilifying these countries. Of course, no country is perfect. There are no utopias.
Exactly.
We can criticize China, we can criticize Russia, we can criticize Iran, anywhere, but we have to do it factually. But US makes cartoon villains out of these countries and tries to make you forget that there are real people living there, that when you say, yeah, let's take down Putin, you're actually attacking hundreds of millions of people with 160 ethnicities. It is their lives that you're going to damage with sanctions. Russia's right now one of the most sanctioned countries in the world. And who do you think that impacts? These are the points that people need to put together. But to bring it back to Navalny, yes, first of all, the man was a Nazi. I understand Cornel West, let's pray for everyone approach. Fine, pray for them. Don't put them in the same image as Mumia and Freedom.
Yeah, he lies about them. Because you notice at no point during the conversation, I'll pass it right back to you, Zoya. You notice at no point during the conversation that Bree and Dr. Cornel West had that Bree or Cornel West brought up the fact that Navalny was caught on tape soliciting $10 to $20 million in order to start a color revolution from the MI6. Why didn't they never bring that up? So it's not like Dr. Cornel West is telling the truth and he has a different take. He's lying about him. Breonna Joy Gray didn't bring up the fact that he called. It wasn't like I'll just pray for him. No, you called him courageous. Like, why are they lying? Because sorry, Zoe, go ahead.
Well, Cornell's premise that the Nazi who compared Muslims to cockroaches as being courageous relies on the fact that on the fantasy that Putin is this dictator that just murders everybody, and that he's somehow uniquely evil. He won't, because he'll use terminology towards Putin that he will not use towards Biden, even though Biden is irresponsible.
He don't call us brother no more. He's like, man, I call anyone brother, but he's on his show with Bree. I was Nick and CJ. It wasn't no brother Nick anymore, but it's brother Navalny. But go ahead, Zoya.
Well, Nick, maybe if you become a Nazi, you can get back into Cornell's good graces. I mean, I don't know.
Maybe if I tell people to vote Democrat, maybe that would do it.
Yes, vote blue no matter who. So Cornell, like a lot of academics, has these blind spots, because I know a lot of people who I could say are not specifically malicious, but because of the titles they have earned in academia, first of all, they have a God complex, because this superiority is instilled in you, that somehow you're smarter and more informed than other people. And the history you're taught in these institutions is actually propaganda. And then you uncritically spread that propaganda and act righteous. The self-righteousness, it's a really big characteristic of the liberal, to act self-righteous. Because that's what Cornell's doing. He's acting like Putin is or any of these leaders. Let's hear what he has to say about North Korea or any of them, where they are these terrible dictators. And I'm sorry, but how can he not realize how incredibly dangerous it is to use this kind of rhetoric after we saw what happened in Libya, after we saw what happened in Iraq? You can criticize these leaders, but you cannot deny objective reality that these countries were better off with them in charge than after U.S. invasion. And what Cornell is doing is helping manufacture consent for U.S. interventions that kill millions and mostly impact civilians.
This fucking scumbag said that people who criticize him are authoritarian and fascist. That is what he said with a straight face with no pushback from Bree. I was like, what? He like, this is a natural authoritarian and fascist tendency to criticize who I pray for. Your faith is not above criticism. And you want to know what's really authoritarian? You want to know what's really fascist? Living in the most violent empire, being a made man like you are, taking paychecks from a Zionist institution known as Harvard, paying taxes in the most violent, bloody empire we have seen in modern history. But you spend your time demonizing leaders that are supported by the popular will of their country. Putin, no matter how you feel about him, is supported by around 80% of the Russian population. The Chinese Communist Party is massively popular. They got around a 75% approval rating. So you, as an outsider, as an enemy state, you gonna chime in and demonize these leaders and governments and override the will of their people, and you're gonna call other people authoritarian? I'm not a cultural imperialist. I believe we should lead by example. So you clean up your house first. After we clean up our house, you lead by example. And then you have other countries follow you by you leading by example. You don't, as you live in a fucking dog shit country with no healthcare, you think you have the right to criticize Russia, who provides healthcare to their people, by the way? You know the policy that you've been fighting for your entire life, Dr. West? That's what they have in Russia. You know, paid maternity leave? They get at least 180 days. Paid maternity leave. You know them social democrat policies that you care so much about, Dr. Cornel West? Putin has a 70% approval rating at least because he provides that to his people. But you, a doctorate, a fake doctor that we confiscated, you can't even explain that to the people that you quote unquote educate. And you're or authoritarian. Go ahead, Zoya.
And to add on, the journalist, I believe his name is Johnny Miller. I apologize if I got that wrong. He's a foreigner in Russia right now, and he had a health episode. He actually slipped on the ice and hurt himself, and he ended up being hospitalized. His surgery, his entire hospital stay, everything as a foreigner cost him a couple $100 in that authoritarian, horrific, awful country. Do you know that people fly from here to Russia, to Mexico, to other foreign countries to get healthcare? These countries that Cornel West wants to criticize? And let's do a little thought experiment. Let's say I say America has discovered of a man named Navalny conspiring with Russians, telling Russian FSB agents that he will take millions of dollars to sow division in America and start a civil revolution. What would America do at that point? Would America not imprison him? Do we not have examples of how America treats even journalists? Do you think for a second America would not prosecute a person that is taking millions from foreigners to start civil unrest domestically? We have to apply the same standards across the board, Mr. West.
Well said. You guys see how our community hold me accountable. The egotistical Dr. Cornel West can't be held accountable by anyone. Who the fuck you think you are? You guys already see the Communist Party of China, Nick. CCP is a term used in the West, Nick. Yeah, I know. I'm being ironic. I need to stop doing that because I do that to mock, because that's how every single person across United States media, in order to get people to fear China, they say the Chinese Communist Party. So yeah, guys, you guys are 100% right. This is why I love my community. You guys see how my community are trying to set me straight. But what I was doing is I was being ironic. Like that's the. I guess, like, to me, even saying that as a way as a demonization of China is weird. The Chinese Communist Party. Like, why does that even work? That's why to me it's funny. That's why I it's like a bad habit where I always start saying it as a way to mock the idea that would even be scary. You know what I mean? But anyway, let's move on. Always appreciate the comments from you guys. I'll read this one because I just saw it come in. That's right. Anyone who says CCP is generally exposing themselves, but we know where you're at. That's every single person on corporate media says it. So I get you guys for posting comments, but I usually saying it ironically, just to mock the Americans who have Chinese derangement syndrome. But great points, guys. You guys see, this is why the media, being helped by Dr. Cornel West, is pushing Alexei Navalny as his cult hero status. And Dr. Cornel West is doing his job and performing his role, because his role is to help the professional managerial class, the neocons, the military-industrial complex, to paint Alexei Navalny as his hero so they can justify escalating this war because of Navalny's death. And now they have a new hero, his wife, who they are now grooming to also be a traitor to Russia and her country. And now I'm gonna play just a little bit of her speech here. So I'm not saying the West killed Navalny or was responsible for it, but it definitely benefits them. The idea that PMCs like Brown Joy Gray and Dr. Cornel West can't make this analysis astounds me. So after the Tucker Carlson interview, as Russia is destroying Ukraine, as Republicans are blocking Ukraine aid, and as the EU is debating this with Turkey and other states that are starting to question the Ukraine war, as Putin is in a great position in terms of geopolitics, that's when he decides to kill Navalny? Apparently, Putin is a fucking sorcerer who is with magic blood clot guns, who can control the weather, who can kill anyone with pinpoint precision, but he waits until now to do it? Why wouldn't he do it earlier? Why he wouldn't wait till later? It makes no sense. It was the worst possible timing. And then as he kills Navalny, his wife just so happens to be in Germany giving a speech. Zoe, what was the conference? It escapes me. But there was
I forget too, but she was in the EU just by accident with speech notes in her hands, ready to go on live the moment her husband dies.
Do people think that's a coincidence? I gotta look it up. I gotta look up exactly. Does anyone in the chat? Can anyone in the chat help me? I forgot the name of the conference, but it was a big like EU NATO conference that she was attending in Germany.
And let's put it into context even more. Putin just did this interview with Tucker Carlson that definitely was shifting American perception, at least in some minimal way. He invested all that effort, and as the momentum is moving towards him, Putin's sitting around and thinking like, how can I fuck this up? How can I piss the West off? Let me kill this guy already in jail.
Sorry, Zoe. It was the Munich Security Conference. So here, I had to look it up. So I don't know why I blanked on it. But you guys see Alexei Navalny's. God damn it! You guys see, I'll try to block all these damn ads. Let me refresh this. Alexei Navalny's widow addresses Munich Security Conference. So as they have this Munich Security Conference, that's when Putin decides to kill Navalny. Why? Because apparently he's just a fucking crazy psychopath like that who doesn't think about stuff. It makes no sense. And this is what Breonna Joy Gray and Dr. Cornel West, Bree, God bless her heart. I don't dislike her. But that just showed the PMC weakness. Like, how do you fall for this, Bree? You work for the Hill. You got sources that I don't. You got the intelligence that I don't have.
And it's irresponsible. It's irresponsible. If you're running for president, I mean, Bree is in her own category as an independent journalist, but if you're running for president, how are you going to repeat propaganda without doing a 5-minute Google search? This information is not difficult to find.
So I'm gonna show you guys. Let me go back to show you guys the kind of opt these people are. And this is the family that Dr. Cornel West is praying for. So Yulia, am I saying that correctly? Navalny.
You are perfect.
And Alexei Navalny are like patriots, or who courageous, according to Dr. Cornel West and the PMC class. but they are advocating for sanctions. They are advocating for the CIA and the MI6 to overthrow the will of the Russian people. Once again, despite whatever you feel about Putin, Cornel West, he is supported by the vast majority of his people. But you back someone who want to use the MI6 and the CIA to overthrow the will of the people? And does it seem like she cares about Russian people? Because look at this headline here, and this is what she's going to say in this speech I'm going to show you. To defeat Putin, stop being boring. The fuck? She's over here calling for the West essentially to go to war with her own people. This is the family that Dr. Cornel West is praying for. She's a psychopath that wants the West to go to war with her own people. You guys know how crazy this is to praise this person? I'll let this play.
Alexei was tortured for 3 years. He was starved in a tiny stone cell, cut off from the outside world, and denied visits, phone calls, and then even letters. And then they killed him. Even after that, they abused his body and abused his mother. He was the opposite of everything boring. This is the answer to the question. If you really want to defeat Putin, you have to become an innovator. You have to stop being boring. Putin.
What does that mean, my friends? What does that mean, Zoya? Stop being boring? Waging a proxy war is boring? Having CIA in Ukraine helping them is boring? And I'm gonna cover Emmanuel Macron in Europe saying that they are open to sending troops to Ukraine. So this patriotic, courageous family that Dr. Cornel West is giving his praise to is calling for war against their own people. What the fuck, Zoya? Do you have any take before I let it continue?
I'm just wondering if she was rehearsing this speech with her lover, a billionaire who she's pictured with for 2 years intimately all over social media.
What? Tell me the scoop on that. What is that about?
I mean, you'd have to ask her, but you know, she obviously hasn't been anywhere near her husband in a long time. And from insider sources, and people are posting it with evidence, with pictures that are definitely.
I've seen a little bit of it. That's why I was asking details, because I've seen a little bit of it, but I didn't look into it yet.
I mean, obviously she's been having this love affair for a while, and according to people close to Navalny, she was the one to convince Navalny to go back to Russia.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
So, you know, we can make a whole movie out of this.
Bro, what? That is crazy.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I did not know that. You were telling me this for the first time, because you know how they always making this argument like, he is so courageous for going back to Russia. And I even seen some people say, I don't know why you even do it. We try to talk him out of it. You tell me she's the reason, according to sources, I guess, right? But that's huge. She is definitely intelligence of some kind. But watch this. I will let it continue, and then you can chime in afterwards. Because does this seem like someone who cares about Russian people? Remember, Dr. Cornel West, like my prayers go to his family. You praising fucking intelligent scum who's calling for war against their own people. This is why I am happy to say that RBN is the anti-PMC channel. After being burnt by so many of these motherfuckers, after seeing their intellectual laziness over the course of my time doing this over 3 years, I'm done with them. I'm paving my own way. Zoya, we're paving our own way. The post-duopoly network, we're paving our own way. I'm cutting them out. These people who are so lazy that they can't get this issue that I can get right, and I have taken thousands of punches and strikes to my head. I am a college dropout. I am nothing special. I got into this just because I realized how horrible the PMC media class is. And they're getting basic shit wrong like this, including people who do good work like Brianna Joy Gray. Most of the time she does great work, but then she repeats uncritically CIA propaganda on critical issues. And I'm tired of it.
I'll give Brie credit here because I watched the full thing. She did later push back on Cornell by quoting Aaron Mate, and she said, "Well, I get that there's these bad faith attacks, but some of them actually are substantive." And then she quoted Aaron Mate, and she pushed Cornell on an answer. And Cornell just goes on tangents and these beautiful speeches that have nothing to do with the question being asked at all. And ultimately, he deflected and said that he was using Navalny's death to bring attention to Leonard Peltier and Mumia. That's what he was doing. That's how he wiggled out.
That's bullshit. Because what I was, once again, I didn't see the whole Patreon. That's a problem with pay locking your content. I guess she got to feed herself. I get it, but I'm not fucking paying for shit. You know what I mean? So what you put out free is what I see, and from what I see, they did not bring up the fact that Navalny was CIA and MI6 one time during the conversation.
Oh, that was never brought up. That was never brought up. And I did watch it for free, by the way. I'm sorry. I know I respect Nick's ethics here and how he tries to be considerate of everybody, even people he criticizes. But honestly, fuck anyone paywalling their content, especially on a presidential candidate that impacts all of us. Fuck that. Fuck the system. Get around it. It's on YouTube. Wink, wink. I'll post it in the chat. Nah, Brie can feed herself. That's fine. I support that. But if it's something of public interest, like a presidential candidate, you need to let everybody hear the whole thing.
Let's continue this video, and we can. And I have quite a few topics. We're gonna continue on the story of Russia because I'm gonna show you guys Emmanuel Macron putting his foot in it. And it shows how Europe is panicking because Emmanuel Macron has floated the idea of sending soldiers in Ukraine. And Europe freaked out because this is the first time we hear a world leader say this. But trust me, this has been a talking point that have been floating around corporate media and lower-ranking politicians for quite some time. Macron was just the dumbest person to say it out loud, and it caused this massive freak out, which we're going to have a fun time covering. So let's watch this psychopath essentially advocate for war against our own people. These are the people who Dr. Cornel West respect, not RBN. But let's finish this.
And then they killed him. Even after that, they abused his body and abused his mother. He was the opposite of everything boring. This is the answer to the question. If you really want to defeat Putin, you have to become an innovator. You have to stop being boring. Putin must answer for what he has done with my country. Putin must.
So she calling for a regime change? What fucking patriot called for regime change using the intelligence agencies and using the media apparatuses of their hostile enemy who wants them dead, who wants them sanctioned to death? Like, did Dr. Cornel West even look her up? Remember, this is the person that we praying for the family. Her family his family, including his wife, is traitors. Anyway, sorry, let me finish it.
Have to stop being boring. Putin must answer for what he has done with my country. Putin must answer for what he has done to a neighboring peaceful country. And Putin must answer for everything he has done to Alexei. My husband will never see what the beautiful Russia of the future will look like. But we must see it. And I will do...
Yay, Nazis, yay!
And I will do my best to make his dream come true. The evil will fall and the beautiful future will come. Thank you.
This motherfucker is almost crying, bro. This psyop is so insane, bro. Dr. Cornel West was touched by this shit. Well, anything you want to add, Zoya?
I mean, what did Putin say during the Tucker Carlson interview? He said, when you're trying to figure out who's responsible for what action, the first question to ask is who benefits? Who benefits from Navalny's death? Does Putin benefit from Navalny's death? No. Does the West benefit from Navalny's death? Yes, that's how they're approving more weapons, more war, and saber rattling and fear mongering and saying, oh, human rights violations, just don't mention Assange. But Russia is committing human rights violations against journalists and oppositions. Just don't mention Julian. Don't mention Snowden. Don't mention Daniel Hale. Don't mention any of the other people that we throw into jail for simply telling the truth about our crimes. But Putin has no right to jail someone that is actively caught taking foreign money to sow dissent.
I'm going to get your take on this because the fact that you have world leaders even floating this, the fact that you have NATO officials talking about this. I don't have enough time to show you guys all the shit I be seeing, bro. Like I have seen so many like NATO segments on MSNBC, CNN doing research for you guys where they just casually bring up like, man, it's about time we need to consider sending soldiers over there. And I'll be like, what? The fuck is going on here? And Russia's response to this is hilarious. Russia immediately put this little fucking weasel in its place. Macron says nothing ruled out, including using Western troops to stop Russia from winning the war. So Zoya, wouldn't the only reason they would say something like this if Ukraine is getting their ass absolutely handed to them?
I mean, we know that. I mean, we have U.S. generals, we have U.S. military admitting that they're losing. They're just selling hopium that if only they get more weapons that they can turn the tide. But at this point, way too many top U.S. officials have conceded that Ukraine is losing.
I'll just read a little bit of this, and I'm gonna show you guys Putin's response, and then I'm gonna show you guys how, even though Macron fucked up, he said what the ruling class is thinking out loud. Because why do I watch corporate media? And Zoya always cringes at me. But why do I watch corporate media? Not for news. I watch it now because I watch it to see what the enemy is saying, what the empire is saying. So their reaction to this was essentially what was like, hey man, why finally someone's saying the quiet part out loud? And then they get upset at the criticism that Macron gets. But let me read just a little bit of this. French President Emmanuel Macron has openly discussed the possibility of sending European troops to Ukraine to help Kyiv win the war against Russia, a potential major escalation to the largest ground war Europe has seen since World War II. Through the possibility of Western democracies putting boots on the ground and Ukraine remains remote, Macron's comments following a summit in support of Ukraine prompted a hawkish response from the Ukraine, from Kremlin. He said that the Kremlin has a hawkish response because Macron says he's about to start World War III. So this is the response that they're talking about here. And this is fucking Russia being gangster as always. And he essentially puts them in their place because NATO and Macron's allies also throws him under the bus. So listen, this is Putin. Putin allies tell Macron, any French troops you send to Ukraine will suffer fate of Napoleon's army. That's gangster as shit. So essentially, and I can show you many quotes from Russian officials and there's a speech from Putin. I'm gonna see if I can find the speech where they essentially like, bro, if you do this, we will fuck you up, homie. You better not fucking do this. This is an insane escalation because we know we are kicking your boy's ass. So because of this, Putin came out like, bro, I fucking wish you would, homie. We will fuck you up. So Germany, NATO, rule out sending troops to Ukraine as Russia rebukes Macron. What does this tell you, fam? The West and NATO is in shambles. What did we tell you guys last year? What did me and Zoya tell you guys last year? We told you guys that the West is walking into a war and a fight that they can't win. And now you got Putin publicly sunning a very significant world leader. Anything you want to add to this, Zoya? And I'm gonna show you guys some cope reactions in corporate media about this. Anything you want to add before I move on?
Yes, I DM'd you a tweet. If you just scroll one tweet up, and
let me pull it up. Thank you for that. I think I saw there's a video you sent me to. Let me see if I can find it.
Just so you guys understand, I send Nick like archives of information.
Bro, Zoya, whenever I tell you guys I got a source, Zoya is like one of my biggest sources. I got like she's fantastic. Let's see what you send. Zero Talk. Which one is it?
Yeah, the Zero Talk of Peace Among You. So it's talking about exactly that meeting, but thank God there's some sane people. And I'm going to read it out. It's short.
Yeah, go ahead.
Zero talk of peace among EU NATO officials at Paris meeting on Ukraine. The Slovak Prime Minister emphasized that the Slovak government has called for establishing peace, how controversial, in Ukraine as soon as possible. This is a quote from him. The atmosphere was totally belligerent to continue the war at all costs and do everything to make the war go on. I was very surprised that not a single word was said about some peace plan or peace initiative. Yes, I can confirm that there are countries that are ready to send troops to Ukraine. There also are countries that say never to that, and Slovakia is one of them. And there are some countries that say such ideas deserve consideration. The Prime Minister emphasized that the Slovak government has called for establishing peace in Ukraine as soon as possible. Our government is committed to peace and rejects a continuation of war, and it will not send weapons to Ukraine. We are focused only on civilian projects. So that's a very important final sentence, because the difference between America and all of these countries that it tries to vilify is that Russia, China, and all of these other countries are building civilian infrastructure. Their military spending is nowhere near the US. The US outspends all of these countries combined. So that's why they're getting housing, they're getting healthcare, they're getting education, they have jobs, they have speed trains. Right now, China's testing drone taxis, automated drone taxis that'll fly you to where you need to go. We can't get clean water in Flint. And it is our war policy is directly connected to the fact that we have such poverty in the richest country on earth.
Zoya's love, Zoya's life. Thank you for breaking that down. That was it just showed that NATO is completely in shambles. This is Putin. This is the description here. Russian Federation President Putin message to Macron of France for a war with Russia. So this is his response. I'm not sure exactly when this press conference is. Let's watch it and we can dive in. Let me turn the audio on.
Я говорил, но я хочу еще раз все-таки подчеркнуть это. Я говорил, но мне очень бы хотелось, чтобы вы меня услышали все-таки в конце концов и донесли это до своих читателей, зрителей и пользователей в интернете. Но вы понимаете или нет, что если Украина будет в НАТО и военным путем будет возвращать себе Крым, европейские страны автоматически будут втянуты в военный конфликт с Россией. Конечно, потенциал объединенной организации НАТО и России несопоставим. Мы понимаем. Но мы также и понимаем, что Россия одна из ведущих ядерных держав, а по некоторым компонентам по современности даже многих опережает. Победителей не будет. И вы окажетесь втянутыми в этот конфликт помимо своей воли. И вы даже не успеете глазом моргнуть, когда будете исполнять пункт 5 Римского договора. Господин президент, конечно, не хочет этого развития. И я не хочу. И я не хочу. Поэтому здесь и находится и мучает меня уже.
So that's Putin sending a very strong message, which has been consistent with Russia. They will defend their sovereignty. You have Western officials just casually floating World War III, and and Putin's red line has in the sand has been clear from day one, but they still keep fucking with them. They still keep prodding the beast, and that's what they want to do. They want this never-ending war with Russia. Like Zoya said before, like essentially anyone with common sense says, just imagine if if Russia or China and Iran was doing the same thing that the West was doing to Russia. I think Putin had been extremely fucking patient with the West, and now he has no faith in them. He's been very clear. He don't trust them no more. He openly discusses how he was betrayed by Angela Merkel. And I see you guys in the chat. What's popping? Let's see if we can get this breaking news story I see you guys talking about, that George Galloway was elected. Hold up. What's popping? I know that has to be trending on Twitter. I may talk about that after this story, so I don't derail this too much. But I see you guys in the comments. That's great news. Why not seeing that trend? Let me search that up. George Galloway.
Let me share some more fun facts while you look that up. His
we may
wife.
discuss after this anyway, but go ahead. We may do a live segment after we finish. I don't want to derail the Russia story too much, so we may do it afterwards. But go ahead, Zoya. You can chime in, and then we're gonna play this clip here. But go ahead, Zoya.
So also his wife was lying, by the way. Navalny, when he was visited by human rights orgs, they verified that he had privileges no other prisoners had, and he could.
Oh, Jesus Christ!
He had no restrictions, and he could have any food that he desired. We could do a full breakdown just on that. And another.
Oh yeah, we gotta talk about that eventually because, dude, the amount of propaganda which Cornel West probably believed on the media, they was like he was essentially sent to a Russian gulag, and he would treat like shit. Like, bro, do you guys really want to have this conversation about how prisoners are treated? Do you guys remember about the story last year about this prisoner in Alabama? It was either Alabama or Louisiana that was killed because he was ate by bed bugs. The condition was so bad he died because he was eaten alive by bed bugs. Like, do you guys want to have a conversation between prison conditions here versus any other country? Are you seriously want to have this conversation? But they've been painting this idea and this lie that he was just rot in prison, that Putin had him murdered because of the conditions. So that's very interesting. We can go through that here very soon. I want to show you guys this clip here because this is the corporate media coverage of Macron's putting his foot in his mouth, essentially threatening World War III. And they are essentially saying in this segment, come on, man, doesn't he kind of have a point? Anyway,
wait. I want everyone to keep something in mind before listening to this. We know for 100% NATO troops are on the ground. We could do a whole separate segment, thousands of them. They're just calling themselves mercenaries, but French troops, German troops, Polish troops, the whole NATO has been on the ground. Ukrainians don't know how to operate these sophisticated military systems. So, and we just saw an article come out that it was a British general that was coordinating the entire attack in the Black Sea. So just keep in mind that the NATO troops are already there, and this is gaslighting.
Yeah, well said. So let's watch it. You guys won't. This shit was crazy. Let's watch it.
Come under fire for suggesting the West might deploy troops to Ukraine. But despite that backlash, the Elysee isn't backing down. A palace source says Ukraine's allies must debate the issue. The source says...
You see what they're leading with? I'm going to let it continue. But you guys, come on. Can we at least debate the issue of starting World War III? Batshit crazy shit we were hearing.
There are all kinds of things ruled out 2 years ago that are no longer ruled out, and that France fears giving credence to the possibility that Russia can win. All this after Mr. Macron's comments, if you remember, on Monday. And to be clear, the French president didn't actually say he wanted to send troops to Ukraine. He only said it's being discussed with other leaders. Here's what he told reporters after Ukraine Aid Summit.
There's no consensus today to officially send, support, and to take responsibility for troops on the ground. But as things...
He had to walk those fucking comments back because you guys saw how NATO and Germany got on his ass. You guys saw how Putin got on his ass. So France and Macron had to immediately backpedal. That's what they're explaining here, but I'll let it continue.
Nothing should be off the table. We will do everything necessary so that Russia cannot win this war.
Well, most European leaders agree on board with the part about defeating Russia, but the idea of sending in their own troops, well, that drew backlash. Officials from a growing list of countries, you can see that, including the UK, Germany, Spain, Italy, Slovakia.
Look, even they had to cover it. Look at this. European leaders push back after French president floats possibility. And to be honest, like Zoya just said, they already got NATO troops on the ground. This is them saying, Macron, you fucking idiot. You're not supposed to say it out loud. To be clear. Do you agree with that, Zoya? Because they essentially saying, "Don't you doing a Donald Trump, sir? You're not supposed to say that." Because as Macron said in his walk back, "Come on, man, we were just talking about it. Who's we? Them."
Oh, for sure. And I'm going to say something that Cornel West never can. Fact check us.
Yeah,
sure. This is free and public information. You can look up the French deaths in the Ukrainian war, and you can look up videos on their social medias. Okay, so U.S. military won't pay you directly. You go as a mercenary, and we'll pay you indirectly through a private firm. And boom, NATO's not technically involved. Now we don't have to activate Article 5. Macron is. He fucked up. He definitely got confused that we're not supposed to talk about this. We're not supposed to actually talk about it. Remember, there's consequences. So he got carried away with his warmongering in public. But they're also conditioning us because they know as the war continues, and especially after it ends, guys, for years, we're going to be finding out how present NATO was actually there. So they want to condition you to at least accept the fact that it's a reasonable thing for them to be there.
I think this is a possibility as well. Mehdi says, do you think they had Macron floated out there to test the response? I've seen this already with lower level officials where they've been talking about this. The reason why this got so much attention because this is the first time like a world leader say what CNN, MSNBC, Morning Joe, and what all these other NATO sycophants have been saying. So yeah, I think you're 100% right, man. I think that is another reason why he was the first one who was dumb enough to say it out loud. But let's continue the segment because you guys are gonna see how desperate corporate media wants to promote World War III. It's really insane.
And Poland all say they have no plans to send their forces to Ukraine. A NATO official tells CNN the alliance won't be deploying combat troops either. And the Kremlin has also responded following Mr. Macron's comments. A spokesperson says conflict with Russia is inevitable if the West sends troops to Ukraine. And we've just seen in the last few minutes, in fact, that the State Department has also commented on this. The State Department reiterating that President Biden has ruled out sending U.S. troops to fight.
You gotta see how even Biden had to say something. Macron, what he did was so out of pocket, saying, "Man, we should consider this possibility." Even Biden was like, no, bro, shh. Not CNN though. Let's continue.
Ukraine in response to Macron's comments, saying sending Western troops to Ukraine cannot, obviously, what Macron heard cannot be ruled out. So we have response now from the US State Department. Melissa Bell joins me now for more. And Melissa, I mean, it's clear that as we've just outlined there, the European leaders have been pretty swift in their response to Macron's comments. Before we talk about how they're responding individually, just frame for us what Macron said and how it's being received at home.
Well, essentially, what he had to announce in his press conference, and this was, Issa, in response to a question that was asked about whether this issue had been raised and debated over the course of the conference that was held here in Paris. Yes, it had, he said, because it was time that a debate began. The idea is that this should be the beginning of a debate about whether any individual countries, and we've been speaking to Élysée sources since some of that backlash that you mentioned, and what Emmanuel Macron is suggesting is not that France should encourage Germany or Poland or other countries who've now said they will not be sending troops to Ukraine to do so. On the contrary, that individual countries should be considering whether or not they are willing to send perhaps not so much initially combat troops, but things like deminers, people to help with the maintenance of Western equipment, border guards, for instance, to help liberate some Ukrainian troops that they can be redeployed for combat. That is the initial suggestion that was behind Emmanuel Macron's comments. And I think it's important to note that
my question is, how is that still not extreme escalation? I don't believe anything she's saying, by the way. But even if she's telling the truth, how is that still not extreme escalation? But I'll let it continue. I want you guys to hear a lot of this, so I'll let it continue.
Have been words of support. For instance, Lithuania's foreign minister has said that it is time to consider all the options that there may be amongst Western allies about what may come next. The idea is that 2 years into this war, and with things stagnating as much as they are, that Western allies should be willing to consider individually whether or not they want to get further involved. And I think what the Elysee sources have been saying is that this is important from the point of view of sending a signal to Moscow of strategic ambiguity, that nothing should be off the table in order that Moscow should not assume that what has been will continue to be. And essentially, as you mentioned, Macron's point is that there have been so many issues that have been off the table so far, things that have now been agreed to, F-16s, the sending of long-range missiles, and the sending of troops should be amongst that, he said.
Zoya, you hear that? So essentially the argument is, we escalated before. You guys said we wouldn't do all this other crazy shit we have done. So why not have a conversation about escalating World War III? Come on, we were just flowing it. We can't talk about it. Zoe, any response before I let it continue?
Honestly, anyone that's been paying attention for the last 2 years knows that they've been saying this verbatim this entire time. From the beginning of the war, they've been saying we have to do all we can. They're trying to imply that Europe's next. Putin always counters with like, they know that's a lie. We have never, had any plans to invade Europe. We're not invading anybody. They have no evidence for this. They are just trying to fearmonger in order to scare their populace. But they have so much civil unrest right now because they crippled their own economies by sanctioning Russia, that there is no way that the European populace would be okay with some kind of forced draft or an actual open war. That's why Macron had to first float it out there, because no matter what, every time they say it, we get desensitized to it. So first he floated it out there and then he walked it back. No, I don't mean escalation like that. I mean much lighter escalation. But this is all bullshit, because we know the New York Times itself just published an article saying that the CIA was involved in Ukraine for this entire time, way before 2014.
Yes, let me find that.
And while you look that up, so knowing that already the CIA, not Nick, not Zoya, not Russian propaganda, Mr. West, but the New York Times and the CIA themselves are saying that they've been interfering in a foreign country to sow division and Russophobia. So we have that confirmation. And what we know is happening right now is that they are pulling the same thing in Armenia as they did in Ukraine. So as soon as Ukraine ends, however Ukraine ends, they're already setting up the next one. The next conflict is going to be Armenia. And there's reports on the ground from Kazakhstan that there are NGO-funded groups already talking about nationalism and sowing Russophobia. So that's why whatever you guys hear on mainstream media, it's such bullshit. They're telling you what to think. And if you do your own research, you're going to find out it's much worse than that. And these are just chess pieces being put into place. We're not going to learn any breaking news from any of these world leaders. They're just trying to make us accept the narrative.
Yeah, well said. And I'm glad you reminded me about the CIA story, because it shows what we are talking about, how there's already this escalation. So I'm going to play this hotspot that my boy Nico released yesterday. You guys know our boy Nico's killing the fucking game at Hotspot. He also back on YouTube. If you're not checking out his live streams, what's wrong with you? This boy Nico is back and he's better than ever. Big shout out to them in Hotspot. You guys saw my video earlier. This is one that he released yesterday, I believe, talking about the CIA in Ukraine.
The CIA has built at least 12 bases in Ukraine right next to the Russian border. The New York Times reported on Sunday that the CIA has been using spy bases in Ukraine to directly engage and undermine Russia, and more specifically, Vladimir Putin. Now, this relationship between the CIA and Ukraine hasn't always existed. It just coincidentally started after the Maidan coup that was also facilitated by the CIA. In other words, we know the New York Times is trying to boast about how great it is the CIA has been working to undermine Putin. But in reality, what they did was informed us that Ukraine probably should have been invaded by Russia a long time ago, and Russia had every right to defend itself, considering that NATO was involved in trying to undermine their country, and they used Ukraine to do so, and Ukraine was fully aware of it. Oh, and because of the U.S. desire to just keep funding Nazis to kill ethnic Russians in Ukraine, that part too. Now, with the news that NATO powers are considering sending troops to Ukraine to fight Russia, coupled with the fact that we now know that CIA has had spy bases there since 2014, and the U.S. has admitted to even putting chemical weapons facilities in Ukraine along Russian borders as well. Now, from my vantage point, it looks like with this information that we have, no matter how much Putin tried to engage in good faith with the U.S. and NATO powers, they had always planned on military aggression with Russia. There was nothing Putin could ever do. And therefore, all the lives that have been lost in Ukraine and every life that will be lost going forward if they do choose to continue to engage with Russia, if they do continue to escalate tensions, it will be the fault of the United States and NATO. All that blood will be on their hands. And everyone who enabled them and ran cover for them in the media, it will be on their hands too.
But Russian imperialism, Zoya, that what Cornball West is worried about. Cornball West says you're on the Jimmy Dore plantation if you're not worried about Putin's imperialism, as the CIA is trying to destroy Russian sovereignty. As his boy, the person he called courageous, is working with these same people that's propping up Ukrainian Nazis to destroy Russia. But Dr. Cornball West wants us to have Putin derangement syndrome, despite these facts that we talk about on our shows, but the PMC class doesn't talk about. Go ahead.
I was dying to debunk this when West was talking, and I'm gonna say it. RBN doesn't say it enough at all. RBN barely makes any money. The amount of money that RBN makes is a joke. There are 6 people to divide these really tiny $15, $20 donations. Yeah, so if literally Nick would make more money just posting a mutual aid link for himself and doing 0 podcasts if money was what he was after. Honestly, I help them out in the back office, and they're just too modest to say this. No one's making any kind of money to be fucking sold out for. We're talking about hundreds of dollars here, Mr. West. So nobody's sold out because no one's making money. And actually what RBN does is risky. It's risky to their freedom, which people forget, because talking about these stories and debunking the mainstream media gets you on FBI watch lists, Mr. West. So this is bravery. None of only the Nazi. This is bravery. And they're not making any money. And Jimmy Dore, love him or hate him, promotes mutual aid work, which you have not, Mr. West. Maybe you have in your lifetime, but you're not promoting this mutual aid work. And you are completely erasing the work of young Black activists, everything they're doing on the ground, handing out diapers, clothing, food, medical supplies. You are erasing all of that by saying that they are on a plantation. You yourself are insulting Black men by saying that they're just following Jimmy Dore's footsteps. And you are not paying attention to what RBN is saying. You need to watch channels like that because you have Western propaganda brain, and it is making you exhibit Western chauvinism even towards your allies.
Do you guys think that I'm employable? You guys realize I sacrifice my professional life for what I do? What I did, I could get a job at any dealership I ever wanted because of my resume. When I decided to leave Toyota, I went to Honda, I went to Volkswagen, just like that. I am unemployable, fam. The second I ever got a real corporate job, you know how fast the Zionists would send my tweets to them? Saying that, oh, look at this Hamas sympathizer you hired. You know how fast they would send my tweets in my live stream to an employer? Saying, look at Nick speaking, he's a Putin supporter. I sacrificed my professional career for this. I don't talk about it a lot because I don't need to brag, but I need to start because people be lying about my name. People have no idea. I made 40 to 45,000 a year selling car. I made way less than that now. But Dr. Cornel West, who made hundreds of thousands of dollars from a Zionist institution, who take money from speaking fees from capitalists, had the nerve to call me a grifter.
Do you know how many views RBN can have tomorrow if we just start pumping up Trump or Biden, either camp? This is a fringe category. We're against everybody. This is the hardest path you can possibly choose for yourself in independent media, to call out everybody. There is nobody that's going to make RBN go viral except the working class.
Yeah, well said. Let's continue this clip. I'm gonna show just a little. This is gonna be pretty much be a one topic stream, and then we're gonna do a live coverage of the George Galloway election, and then we will wrap up. I'm going to edit the title of the video. I'm not trying to clickbait you guys. Have a plan, but hey, me and Zoya, we got a lot of shit to talk about. So I'm going to talk about the social media story probably Saturday at noon. So I'm gonna edit that out, and I'm probably gonna edit the title of George Galloway winning the election. That's probably what we're gonna do later, Aaron. Because I'm gonna talk about the George Galloway story because it's breaking. So let's continue this clip because I want to show you guys what the message of the establishment is regarding this freak out from Macron. And another reason why I find this interesting as a nerd, you guys know I'm a nerd more than anything, is because the point I've been continually making is that corporate media is often more bloodthirsty and pro-war than our politicians. And it's crazy because you just saw Biden put back against it aggressively. Meanwhile, CNN, they're like, oh, come on, let's have a debate about it. I remember Jake Sullivan, and I remember all these Biden officials. They would get grilled by the corporate media, and their message essentially was, Zoya, why aren't you guys doing more for Ukraine? Why aren't you guys sending this? Why aren't you guys sending more bombs? And then like the reaction from Jake Sullivan, these people, was always classic because they essentially like, the fuck? Do you know what we have done? How much more war do you guys want us to promote? They're like, why aren't you guys sending more weapons to Taiwan? They're like, the fuck? We already sent weapons to Taiwan, and this is like a pattern I've seen between like the credentialed White House core and the mainstream corporate media. They always press these people to the right. So watch this segment, and remember, keep in mind, they admitted even Biden's pushed back on Macron. Meanwhile, they're talking about how this should be a legitimate conversation. Let's continue.
Been off the table so far, things that have now been agreed to, F-16s, the sending of long-range missiles, and the sending of troops should be amongst that, Isa.
But the way he framed that line that we heard there sounded like that wasn't discussed at this summit. And at least from what we've heard as well, the kind of pushback we've heard from some European leaders. Was this even discussed at all? He says it's time it's discussed. Was it even discussed?
We've understood that it began to be raised during this conference, but of course there will be a question for individual countries. For instance, France is about to begin debating in its parliament how it goes forward with this war, what its consequences are for France, and we understand that this may be a part of the future discussions. The suggestion was that debate began about this issue, and this should now be a debate and a consideration for individual countries. Not that
now you guys see they confirmed that this quote unquote debate is already happening. So they're really upset for Macron for being the idiot to say it out loud to give Putin a PR victory. Because now Putin and Russia, as you guys see, is going around talking about how the West is wanting to start war with us. We was right to do this military action. I'll just show you guys one slice of the pie. Russian media is having a field day with Macron's blunder. You guys know the real political gaffe is when they tell the truth. So they're upset because he said a quiet part out loud. But let's continue.
NATO or the European Union should send troops in, but that individual allies may now consider something that until now had been something of a red line. And I think the response from Moscow, the very strong response, and this would inevitably lead to a confrontation between NATO and Russia, is an indication from the point of view of the Elysee that that message has been heard, that everything is possible and that they need to be paying attention, Isa.
Very important context there from our Melissa Bell in Paris. Great to have you on, Melissa. Thank you very much. Let's get more analysis on this. I'm joined now by Reem Montage. She's a research fellow for European foreign policy and security at the
Let's hear what this psychopath says when we wrap this up.
Reem, welcome back to the show. You would have heard there Melissa Bell talking about this in detail, but you would have seen, Reem, the European leaders being kind of very swift, very quick as well, and tough on their response, themselves really trying to distance themselves, just to say, from Macron. What do you make, first of all, Reem, of how Macron framed it here?
So unlike his usual way of talking, Macron was pretty prudent in the way he answered the question. What had happened is that before this conference that he had organized with about 20 heads of state and government, mainly from Europe, to look at how European countries can do more to support Ukraine in its fight for survival, the Slovak prime minister had raised this issue of possibly sending Western troops to Ukraine. He he had not talked about Western troops engaging in any kind of frontline combat, of course, against Russian troops. And so at the presser, Emmanuel Macron was asked to comment on that statement by the Slovak prime minister. And he basically said this had come up during their conversations and their discussions during that conference, and that nothing could be ruled out, and that the main message should be to send to Russia is that the Europeans are going to do everything that is necessary in order to ensure that Russia doesn't win. So he was quite non-committal because go ahead, Isa. Yeah.
No, I was going to say, I mean, that is a message that we have been hearing, that there has been, it does seem to be a shift, at least in tone, Reem. I mean, I don't know if you heard Melissa saying that for Elysée Palace source telling CNN, the question of key allies sending troops to Ukraine is, quote, a debate that we must have. So clearly not backing down at all. But we have heard in the last, few hours, I should say, support also, Reem, from some allies. Well, a friend of the show here, the Lithuanian foreign minister, who said, I'm going to bring it up, Europe's fate is being decided on the battlefields of Ukraine. Times like these require political leadership, ambition, and courage to think out of the box. The initiative...
You guys see how badly the anchor wants this to happen? She wants this to happen more than anything. And she's gonna platform and highlight the people who supports the conclusion that she wants to see happen. Why not talk about World War III, guys? Let's continue.
Behind the Paris meeting yesterday is well worth considering. So not complete. I mean, some believing, like Landsbergis, this might be the moment to start talking about it.
To be honest, some aspects of this idea have been discussed among allies for the past couple of weeks in various fora, not necessarily at the highest levels, but there have been some testing grounds to see who might be willing to do this and what they might be willing to do. Of course, everyone...
There it is. That answers someone's question. I forgot who asked that question. Was he flowing this out to test the reaction? She just confirmed it. She said it was a good testing ground. Let's continue.
Mind that they don't want to lead to any kind of escalation, any kind of direct combat.
That's a lie.
Any kind of direct contact between Western military and Russian military. So that is front of mind. They're also looking at the rules of engagement. If they send in trainers, for example, to train Russian troops, which, by the way, they have been doing in Poland, they have been doing in the UK, they have been doing in Germany. If they decide to move that training, say, to the western side of Ukraine, parts closer to the Polish border, does that really change things? And how can they do it in a way that is safe and that does not escalate the situation with Russia? Very serious people are looking at this. They're also looking at doing, as Melissa had said, you know, any kind of support with demining and other such activities.
So this is a big conversation in the West. Macron is the first world leader to put his foot in the mouth, but they keep confirming over and over again that this is the direction that we're going. And I agree with a lot of people in the chat that are saying that the fact that this conversation has already been had means the decision is made. They beta testing, they slow rolling their plan to escalate this. And the funny thing is, as the West continue to float the idea of escalating war with Russia, and when they've reached the conclusion that we have to send troops to fight against Russia, they keep lying about the fact that it is Putin who wants to invade the rest of Europe. And Zoe, you can speak on this as well, because Putin is tired of this, and he's even speaking out against this nonsense. And this is Putin speaking out regarding the West's willingness to escalate its conflict, what he clearly don't want. The West provoked conflicts in Ukraine, the Middle East, and other regions. But now they declare Russia will attack Europe? Everything they are making up and scaring the world with poses a threat of nuclear war, the end of civilization. Don't they understand that? So what he's saying is this saber rattling that they're doing, this messaging campaign that they must stop Putin or he will march into Europe, even though he never ever hinted the fact that he wanted to do that, that is designed to promote never-ending war, and it will lead to nuclear war and World War III. And you guys think I'm bullshitting? This is the messaging you hear all the time from the Biden administration, the corporate media, and the military-industrial complex, which is straight-out bullshit. You hear Nikki Haley say this all the time. They say this, Putin is going to invade Europe and Russia. As a fact, it is a straight up lie. And here's a State Department official, one of the lead heads, the Defense Secretary, Lloyd Austin, repeating the same thing. And Zoe, I want you to respond to this. And also, if you want to, explain why this narrative is bullshit after I play this video.
Ukraine falls, again, Putin won't stop there. He will just continue to move forward and attack and take on the sovereign territory of his neighbors. And so, if you're a Baltic state, you're really worried about whether or not you're next. And so they know Putin. They know that what he's capable of. And quite frankly, if Ukraine falls, I really believe that NATO will be in a fight with Russia.
You must understand, these are not crackpots saying this. This is the defense secretary. And Zoe, I want to bring you in, but one more thought. You guys notice how the narrative on the Ukraine changed since the United States funded the genocide in Gaza. Because the genocide in Gaza destroyed the Ukraine narrative. And I've reported on the fact that European officials who supported the Ukraine war, they lost faith in the United States because they were dumb and they were sweet summer children. They really believed that the United States cared about sovereignty. They cared about preventing war crimes. They cared about civilian deaths. Now you have Israel that's blowing Russia out of the water when it comes to war crimes. They have killed more children in like the first 2 days of the campaign than the entirety of the Russian-Ukraine conflict. You have like 3 times more children killed in Gaza than Putin was accused of kidnapping. You know the thing that got him an ICC charge? So now, before the Gaza genocide, they were saying, oh, we got to stand up against war crimes. We got to stand up against democracy. We got to stand up against the death of civilians. And now, ever since Gaza, they know they can't say that no more. So they have shifted the narrative. Now, don't get me wrong. They always said some version of this. I don't want to mislead. They always said some version of this. But now, this is the main message now. It's not about stopping war crimes and civilian deaths. We can't even fucking pass that off no more. So now the main message coming from them is, hey, we got to stop them now or you're going to invade Europe. It's absurd. Go ahead, Zoe. You can take from here, and then we're going to move on to George Galloway after I think this will be our last Russian receipt. Zoe, you want to take it from here? Anything you want to add?
Well, Nick, have you considered what nuclear war can do for you and your family?
And then nuclear war is a strong campaign. I mean, usually war would help presidents, but that's not the age we're in now. But go ahead, Zoya.
I'm going to read a small excerpt from the NATO manual, the Soviet Operation Maneuver Group, a new challenge to NATO. And this is from 1983, just so you guys know how long this was in there. We should remember that NATO leaders have stated categorically that in the event of a Soviet attack, NATO will initially fight a conventional battle. Figures of 5 or a few days are usually quoted for this phase. NATO will eventually resort to tactical nuclear weapons when conventional defensive measures fail. So the only one with a stated mission to use nuclear tactical devices is actually NATO. It's like you always say, Nick, with stories regarding Israel, how every story is a confession. That's what you have to keep in mind when these leaders are talking about invading sovereign countries, because it is actually a NATO tradition to invade countries like Somalia and Libya and Yugoslavia. It is not a Russian tradition to do this. The largest warmongers are always accusing their victims of what they're actually perpetrating.
Yes, absolutely. Zoya's love. Zoya's love. I love like the Zoya show is always fun. Hope you guys enjoying this one. So we gotta do a part 2 because there's so much shit I didn't even get into. Like me and Zoya, we can literally talk about this fucking NATO bullshit for hours. Like the amount I haven't even went through your receipts, my friend. Like the amount of receipts that she sends me. Let me see if I can update the title of the video. I want to cover the George Galloway. I gotta get either CJ or Aaron to make me a new thumbnail. Let me see. 1 second, guys. I'm gonna see George Galloway win. I gotta keep it simple, just because I'm doing this live. George Galloway wins. Can I change? I see CJ do it all the time. I have no idea how CJ be doing this shit. CJ and Savvy do this shit way better than me. Let me add the title. Cause I'm going through this now. This is very exciting. Me and George Galloway really friendly. Very good to see the good guys win.
Well, CJ usually while he does this, he goes, 1 second here.
I saw CJ win in earlier, so he might have did some changes. But you guys know CJ helps me out a lot with these shows, so big shout out to our brother CJ. I can't do this shit alone. Let's read some headlines. This is a live segment. I didn't have this planned, so I'm gonna go through some receipts I am seeing live with you guys. Maybe read a little bit about this, but this is my preface. This is obviously my first reaction to this because George Galloway decided to run because there's such a crazy time and the UK has gone crazy, bro. Like there's so much stuff to cover. I haven't really have a lot of time to cover UK politics, but the Labour Party, which used to have the leader, a leader that stood up for Palestinian rights, Jeremy Corbyn, and they smeared him as an anti-Semite for that. The Labour Party, which already had a lot of problems, they are just full-fledged neocon party now, like full-fledged pro-genocide, pro-censorship, pro-NATO, and that's the entirety of the European quote-unquote left. And this is what Howie Hawkins tried to turn the Green Party into, which is why like we had to take Howie Hawkins' fucking credentials away before Cornel West, because you guys didn't see that interview I had with him. It was a train wreck. I was like, bro, you got out of your mind, bro, with your pushing mandates, pushing NATO, because there was a coordinated effort to turn the left into pro-empire simps. So I follow UK politics a lot, but you guys see I have to cut so much of my segments as it is. I wish I had more time to cover UK politics, because when you see it happen in the UK, it's fucking crazy. It's so crazy it brought George Galloway out of retirement. Like George Galloway was in media after being a legendary MP for a long time. He got into media and he was exposing the truth, because that's a very powerful way to create change as well. I know Dr. Cornel West don't like it. He like to demonize us as grifters, but George Galloway saw how important it was to have a media that was exposed to truth, which is why he had one of the biggest talk shows in the UK, the George Galloway show. The what is it? Mox, do they call it? His show. I just call it the George Galloway show. So it was a great honor to be on there before, and be in solidarity with George Galloway. Most, you guys see, I see everyone in the chat's roasting me for getting it wrong. I'm sorry. But you guys see he got in the media, but things was so crazy. He covering this insanity between the NATO war, the genocide in Gaza. He puts his name, he put his hands up. Unlike Cornel West, though, he really is a threat to establishment. He actually has a plan to win. You guys see how in the UK and around the world they don't do these bullshit messaging campaign. Oh, we don't care if we win. We win a messaging campaign. This motherfucker won because he had a plan of action. He wasn't here to bullshit us. Incredible. I'm gonna go through some Twitter receipts as well. Here's some corporate media headlines first. George Galloway wins Rochdale by-election after calling for Gaza protest vote. I don't like that term, protest vote. Am I wrong in saying that there's a snark in this headline, my friends? I don't like it. There's no, what the fuck is a protest vote? So the idea of a protest vote is that your vote is predetermined. You should vote this because of that. No, protest vote don't exist because you vote how you fucking vote based on your values. Let me know in the chat. I'm down for pushback. Am I being too snarky here? I don't like the headline.
I think you're absolutely right. I think they're trying to diminish the message and mock it. It's like saying the doomed to fail vote.
Let's read more corporate media headlines because my Twitter timeline is based. So you're gonna see. I already saw a ton of people celebrating this. So I want to show you guys corporate media headlines first. I want to see the cope because I'm going through this live right now as well. Essentially, what I'm doing live right now is exactly what I'll be doing if I turn the stream off anyway. So I'm like, fuck it, I might as well do the story, right? So here's New York Times. Oh fuck, I had a free trial for New York Times. I'm like, fuck, you guys give me a free trial, I'll take it. It helped me with hotspot. Apparently that shit gone. What do you guys think? I'm thinking about getting this. I don't want to pay these motherfuckers, but I think it would help. But I'm like, I don't want to pay these motherfuckers. I think it would be good to read these articles on RBN.
There's a link to get around all the paywalls. I'll drop it in the chat in a minute.
What? I'm a fucking boomer, bro. I swear to God. Like, because I was thinking about getting New York. I got the free trial, then I stopped it, but I can't bring myself to pay these motherfuckers. But the only reason I would do it is because I am a citizen journalist, and I wanted to show you guys what they're saying. So I considered it before. What do you guys think? I'm literally asking you guys, because paying these motherfuckers, even if it's cheap, like that still would piss me. I don't want to pay them. But it's moments like these where I would love to show you guys what the New York Times is saying. So I'm gonna leave it up to you guys. I want to leave a comment. Let me know what you guys think. I would hate to pay these motherfuckers, but in times like these, I want to show you guys what they're saying. But unfortunately, let's find another headline. This is for Gaza. George Galloway wins UK seat after campaigning against Israel. This is what I was saying in my intro to this segment. This is why this is so huge, and this is why you're going to see a party on my Twitter feed. Because when I was preparing this live segment, I was looking what they say on Twitter. Of course, there's a party. I want to show you guys, and you see like just this. I don't know. Maybe I don't know if this is like intelligence breakdown, but I can almost hear the rage in these headlines. Like fuck, fuck. That's what I'm hearing, right? Let's do one more mainstream headline. And then we read a few Twitter reactions, and then we wrap up the live stream. Look at this one. Controversial left-winger. What is controversial about being against genocide? Oh my, I cannot wait to read the headlines, bro. I told you guys I'm a nerd. I can't wait to see what the propaganda machine says. That's the point. That's where I'm at in my life right now, apparently. Now I look forward to seeing, like, man, I can't wait to see how they spin this. Controversial left winger. George Galloway wins. This is why I push back against the bullshit when people say Aaron Bushnell had mental illness. No, the people who have mental illness are the people who see dead children and like it says, okay, no ceasefire. You see dead children on social media and your reaction is no ceasefire, and you say that Aaron Bushnell has a mental illness? You guys say George Galloway is controversial, but seeing hospitals get bombed doesn't move you? You guys know how I joke and say I'm a radical, you know what I mean? But if I was to be real with you guys, telling you guys how I really think, I don't think I'm radical. I think what we say is common sense. I just think we live in a crazy society. Our society is so crazy that having common sense and empathy makes you a radical. You guys say just being anti-genocide, being anti-baby killing makes you radical. The reality of the situation, if I would stop being just having fun, I would say we're not the radicals, they are. That's the proper messaging. I do say that sometimes, but that's how we should frame this shit. We're not the radicals. They are the radicals. They are the crazy ones. No one wants to do violent revolution. Marx talks about this. Marxists want to create change by any means necessary. The reason why we call for revolution that may be violent is because we know their conscience won't call for a peaceful change at times, because we are ran by psychopaths. You know what I mean? So we don't want to fuck people up. We don't want to explain the reality that violent revolution is the only way to have social change. We are telling you guys that's the only way it's going to happen, because we are ran by psychopaths who will never give up power without blood. So you guys see, I'm learning. I'm getting better at my framing because I think that's something I used to leave out. Like, I am not a pacifist. I do believe that we should engage in community defense and violence if necessary. But we got to understand that's not what we want, but it will be inevitable. That is what our theory tells us. That is what State and Revolution tells us. So I am working on my framing. I think that's the best way to explain it. Anything you want to add, Zoya? There's not just I get this kind of turned into like my diary segment, I guess. Zoya, anything you want to add?
Well, to your point, I'll quote the famous philosopher Krishnamurti. It is no measure of health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society.
Yes.
And if seeing images of dead kids daily in 4K leaves you feeling well, I propose it is you that has mental health issues.
But George Galloway is controversial because he see dead kids. He's like, fuck that. So let's go into my base timeline. You guys saw some corporate media reactions. I wish I would have got some more, to be honest. We're doing this live. I think out of the headlines I'll show you guys, I think we've seen the last one I'll show you guys was a really good coat one. The other ones, you can see they were like seething behind the scenes. They gotta write it as neutral as possible. So let's show you guys some video. I feature Combate all the time. I love their account. He did the headlines about the overwhelming victory. So
they used to say the Palestinians fought like heroes. Now they say heroes fight like Palestinians. Wassalamu alaikum.
Bro, he was running like this and won. So what's the excuse for the squad? What's the excuse for the people who spend all their time condemning Palestinian resistance? Why do people feel like they have to be weak on this issue? He won with this strong message. Let's watch this clip here.
Keir Starmer, this is for Gaza. You have paid.
That is what he was running on. It wasn't like a side thing, fam. Do you guys have any idea how fucked the ruling class is? You guys saw my hotspot. 58% of evangelical Christians are calling for a ceasefire. I have never seen this in my entire life. I've seen the 2014 carnage. That was like the first time it really hit mainstream during 2014. And I've seen all these incursions. I explained how last year was the most brutal year in modern history for Palestinians. It's something I have covered deeply ever since I started as a citizen journalist. I have never seen the tide change like this. And I am not the only one who said this. Everyone I talked to who covered this says the same thing, to the point where you can openly run on Gaza and win in a landslide. Now, it'd be interesting to see the makeup of this, but UK is a deeply Zionist country. I don't know the makeup of the area he ran. I'm not an expert of UK electoral politics, but to me, it's still astounding that you can run like this and win in the UK, especially when everyone knows who George Galloway is and they know what his position is. But let's finish this press conference take on here. Feel free to interrupt anytime, Zoe. We almost done with I'm going to read super chats, and then we wrap up the live stream tonight.
This is for Gaza. You have paid and you will pay a high price for the role that you have played in enabling, encouraging, and covering for the catastrophe presently going on in occupied Palestine in the Gaza Strip.
So here's some more information. I guess I'll find one more receipt after this, maybe, if I can find anything interesting. This is a live segment of me trying to cover this breaking news. Here's Stats for Lefties. That seemed like a decent account. George Galloway wins Rochdale. George Galloway wins 40%, which a crushing majority. 1,500 votes. Independent comes second with 21%. So he damn near doubled second place. Because you guys know in the UK they got a multi-party system. Labor falls to fourth place. And that's another narrative I've been seeing as I prepared this segment. Labor are getting crushed because they was exposed fully as the NATO charlatans, genocide supporting charlatans that they actually are. I see this tweet here, so I'll read this one. And then I guess we move on. Here's Aaron Mate. a rare sign of Western civilization. Congrats, George Galloway, and thank you, Rochdale. So you guys see a lot of people reacting to this. This is a pretty big moment. So congrats to George Galloway. And I think this is more signs that Israel has completely lost the narrative. Completely lost the narrative. So Zoya, anything else you want to add on this?
It's a nice protest win. I hope that's how they cover it.
Protest win, absolutely.
George Galloway was actually on the right side of history for decades. I don't know how much background people have on him, but he was actually fighting apartheid in South Africa.
Yeah.
So he's no stranger to any of this, and he's been pretty consistent for decades. And he had Nick on his show before, a great episode I encourage everyone to watch. But George Galloway says a lot of things about Russia that we do. So I wonder if Mr. Cornel West is going to say that George Galloway is too.
Another win for the Jimmy Dore plantation. God damn it. Jimmy Dore and George Galloway is friends. I think they've been on each other's show and vice versa. So I know Cornel West is probably seething. Another goddamn win for the Jimmy Dore plantation.
Damn it.
Let's get to some super chats. Yeah, George Galloway is based. Thank you for the $49.99 KSW. And appreciate the generous super sticker. Thank you for the $10. Kill Jones. Cornell cried all his tears for brother Navani. The fact, I can't believe that's the hill he decided to die on. I can't believe it. Remember in the interview with Brit, he said, man, I'm getting ran up on the street being confronted about this. Like, bro, can you imagine being confronted on your weakness on white supremacy in real life, bro? That's not embarrassing. How you double down on that, bro? You should immediately strongly walk that shit back, said I was wrong and delete the tweet. If you did that, people wouldn't be walking up on you, brother. That's just the fact. Actually, I didn't read this one, I don't think. Thank you for $5, ARJ. I appreciate all the super chats, ARJ. Corporate media is a joke when they bring up Russia's human rights violations and war crimes while being silent about, and not Israel's deadly crimes. Israel's absolutely. In fact, they justify it. Oh, come on, man. They fighting against the mosque. I was about to do a story on the Flower Massacre, and they just talk. They're like, well, they were like a giant. A lot of Palestinians die as Israel waged war against a mosque. Like, what? That was like the headline talking about this massacre where Israel just killed 100 people that was starving and looking for aid. They were like, well, all these Palestinians died as Israel waged their war against the mosque. What evidence do people have that Israel is waging war with Hamas? There's evidence that Hamas is waging war with Israel. There is zero evidence that Israel is waging war with Hamas. When you have a 98% civilian death rate like Israel has, when they kill 100 Palestinians for every one Hamas person they kill, and that's based on their numbers, how can anyone credibly say that they're at war with Hamas? They're at war with the Palestinian people. Appreciate the very generous super chat. My friend, very generous super chat. And that California currency? Not California, Canada. Is that Canada currency? I'm not sure. RB in his love, RB in his life. Zoya's love, Zoya's life is in the house. What's popping? It was a fun stream as always. Tell you guys, we got bang after bang after the Cornel West shit popped off. People were like, man, Nick, why you got RB? You guys already starting drama. We didn't want this. No one made Dr. Cornel West say our fucking name. No one made Dr. Cornel West come on our show. We were just propelled into this shit. And that was despite the fact that we was anti-electoral politics. And we were very loud about that. So how did that happen? Appreciate you, my friend. We got another generous super chat. What's good, man? I get to eat tonight. What's popping? Appreciate RB and I appreciate you, Joseph. I'm glad that you guys enjoyed. I hope you guys enjoying this live stream. I've been having a good time. You guys know we are 2 months in. 2 months in on Nick and Night season 2. I used to do this once a week. Last year, the season 1, the first season, the first attempt at Nick and Night, I'll do once a week. Then I had to take breaks. I had a lot of schedule changes. I was moving. I had to cancel the show for a little bit. We came back, and season 1 was a good pilot, but season 2 is a banger, my friends. 3 times a week? The guests that we have had on, it's very fun. Very, very fun. All right, let me read this one. Make sure you guys memorize the schedule because you guys know the algorithm is not going to boost us. We got about 700 people, 800 people watching across live streaming services right now. And that's because people are like, oh shit, Nick goes live Thursday evening. Nick goes live Tuesday evening. And that was a mistake I made before. Like hoping like the algorithm will let you guys know I go live. I just gotta hope that you guys like my show enough that you guys will just tune in when I'm live. And I gotta be consistent. That's something else I learned. Like again, I used to go just live whenever. Like that's how I used to do. CJ goes, I go live with CJ. No, I this year I decided to do a scheduled plan so you guys know exactly when I'm live. So if you guys like my show, just tune in Tuesday and Thursday evening. That's my favorite. I'm asking you guys. I do 3 Saturdays a month. I'm doing Saturday live noon my time, so it's 1 p.m. Eastern time. So I'm having a lot of good time with the show. So let's continue. Thank you for $20, ARJ. RBN represents the revolutionary working class and PMC traders, absolutely professional managerial class traders. Because as you guys know, I welcome traders of the professional managerial class. We have many class traders we feature. I was about to say some names, but I don't want to call PMC. All the PMCs that we feature on our show, like the Saw Rods, you know what I mean? These are the people who actually who are not brainwashed by PMC brain fog, you know what I mean? PMC class traders are welcome. The people who donate to Rome's library is one of them. But at this point, if you're not willing to put your wallet to the movement, if you're out here donating to politicians, if you donate to politicians instead of mutual aid, lose my number. You know, that's the red line. You guys see Dr. Cornel West spend $150,000, 0 of it on ballot initiatives. At this point, if you're a PMC and you're using your wealth to fund politicians instead of the movement, that's the PMC that can lose my number. If you're the PMC that's funding Rome's library and you're funding actions, you are a friend of the movement. Revolutions need class traders. If you're a PMC that takes your time to smear independent media and erase the blackness of others while spreading CIA talking points and calling people who speak out against empire Jimmy Dore plantation, you are a class enemy. I don't care what you say. I don't care how you market yourself. That's how I view it. Anyway, a few more super chats. Let's move, and then we can.
And can I just add?
Yeah, feel free.
I am Russian. The Russophobia is out of hand. Like, we're human beings. We have feelings.
Yes.
People have been wishing for us to die. Like, this is dangerous. What Cornel is doing supports an ideology that's leading to violence. There's literally videos of Russian stores being smashed, Russian babushkas like being assaulted. So, you know, we all have to be careful, Mr. Cornel West. And because you don't do your research, you are repeating things that lead to other groups being marginalized. So just be aware of that.
Dr. Cornel West wants us to hate Russia. I have never met a mean Russian my entire life. I can't count the amount of racist, liberal Americans I've counted in my life. Now, you guys, I don't have time to. It's not even important to show you guys. But have you guys know how many times I was called a nigger ever since the start of October 7th by Zionists? The same people like, oh my God, you're an anti-Semite. How dare you spread anti-Semitic talking points, you nigger? That's Zionist. The amount of racist shit I get ever since I started RBN. It's not worth talking about. I'm not a victim, but I've got a ton of racist shit, mostly from liberals, Zionists, and Ukraine supporters who hate my messaging. You want to know who I never got a racist message from? Russian people, Chinese people, Cubans, Iranians. You know the people they want us to hate? Never ever in my entire life, I'm not bullshitting you, never ever got racist shit from Russian, Chinese people and all the people they want us to hate. It's always the people they want us to love. The Elizabeth Warren liberal, the Nancy Pelosi liberals, these Zionists, the Ukrainian Nazis. You guys have no idea how many variations of monkey and N-word I have been called over the course of the last few months. I'm not a victim though, so I don't complain about it a lot. But Zoya's my friend. Dr. Cornel West wants us to hate Zoya. You know what I mean? Meanwhile,
Russia has on the ground troops supporting the liberation movements in Mali and Burkina Faso who have kicked out their French colonizers. So I just wonder if Mr. West and people who support him bother looking into this information. Who is helping Africa? Soviet Union was always a friend of Africa, and Russia still is today. And Russia will be a friend, and as they say, more than a brother to China, more than a brother to Iran. All of these countries America wants you to hate, they have formed the BRICS Union. And by the way, BRICS today announced that they are going to be working on their own digital currency system, which will be a competitor to SWIFT. So the reason American Empire is freaking out, yeah, they just announced that today. So,
so I gotta bring you back here soon, man. We got so much to talk about. Holy shit, man.
So goodbye to the dollar, and make no mistake, this is not about Ukrainian lives. This is not about anything that they want you to feel emotional about. It's about the oligarchs of America trying to protect their supremacy in the world, and they do not care how many people they have to kill, how many countries they have to destroy, because all they want is to hold on to their power.
So I guess I'm covering that Saturday too. The brick story. But let's move on to super chats. I think this has been just another banger. Always great to have Zoe on here, enlightening and breaking news to me. I mean, that's why like I don't even want to be associated with the PMC class no more. You know what I mean? I'm done with reaching my hand out. I'd rather have shows with Zoe on here. You know what I mean? I'd rather have shows with Nico. Rather have shows with Rome, Misty. Why should we even be? And that's the point I was making, that I agree with when people criticize me with having court. Like, there's no reason for me even bring these motherfuckers on no more. I don't even want to talk to politicians. Do you guys have any idea how many politicians reach out to me and be like, hey, man, I'm running this election. I agree with you on X. Can you invite me on? Hey, man, I'm calling out the Gaza war, man. Invite me on. No. The same time, people will say RBN is irrelevant, but all these politicians want to come on our show. All these PNC people want to come on our show, and I promise you guys right now, I'm done. I'd rather have shows where I talk to smart people who are slept on, like Zoya's Love and Zoya's Life. You know what I mean? I'm going to bring Robert Durden, who is extremely slept on. I'm going to have Misty Winston, who's extremely slept on. We're going to talk to our black elders like Ajama Baraka and Mark Kimberly. I'm not talking to PMCs no more. Dr. Cornel West killed that shit off. And I've been burnt by so many PMCs ever since my time in this space. Many stories you guys don't know about. But I am done. Like, we've been blacklisted from so many different places. I don't care. I'd rather have conversations with you guys. I'd rather have someone like Zoya on. I'd rather have someone from the working class on. I have all these union organizers I'm booking up right now. You know what I mean? And from now on, that's what Nick and I is going to be. We're going to have intellectuals on. I don't care about, like, the name quality. You know what I mean? I'm not chasing name quality. That's why I'm not bringing on people that are going to give me clicks. Look at my lineup. Some people do. But look at my lineup. Some people don't like you guys. Like, who's that? Someone who slept on. And that's what this show is going to be. You guys are going to see people that will never be featured because they got not big names. So Zoya always bring the great info. And I got to bring you back because we got a lot to talk about, my friend, as always. Anyway, let's continue with the super chats. We almost done. Thank you for $10. Love RBN. Best political channel on YouTube. Thank you. You guys are making me blush. much love. Guys, know Zoya's Love, Zoya's Life. I've co-founded Tender Man with Zoya back in the day. I knew Zoya for a very, very long time. Thank you for the $10. RBN deep in the pockets of Big Poor. Cornel West was like, independent media, man. Not so independent. You got the fucking Big Poor funding independent media. Making fucking the most boomer arguments. And I'm not trying to insult boomers, but that's the fucking most intellectually lazy argument I've ever heard in my life. When I saw Dr. Cornel West's fucking response diss track to us, I had no plans. I'll tell you, I had no plans on continuing this. We was gonna do our Voltron roundtable where even Savvy chimed in on Dr. Cornel West, and we were about to move on. I could never have predicted that this motherfucker was gonna go on Bad Faith podcast and make an ass of himself like that. To the point where people would DM me like in mass, like, Nick, you gotta cover this. Nick, I'm like, oh, all right, I get. I was like, all right, let me check this out, see if it worked my time. I made it 3 minutes in. I was like, oh, Jesus Christ, now I have to cover this. Because he name dropped us. And he did it in the most dumbest way. You notice how a lot of people are not trying to cover this. All the Dr. Cornel West fans are in shambles over this. 2 presidential candidates that I have exposed. 2 presidential candidates that asked to come on RBN. I didn't want to talk to those motherfuckers. Do you guys know how many times people was like, why don't you have Dr. Cornel West on? Zoe, do you remember this? If you've been subscribed for a long time, do you guys remember this? Like the pre-Cornel West days? There were people that were like, why don't you have Cornel West on? Why don't you have Cornel West on? Because I was listening to like the Roman no more. I'm like, I don't want to talk to these motherfuckers. It wasn't until he and his wife reached out to me personally where they're like, oh, we want to talk to RBN. We want to be a community. And at that point, how could I say no? I told you I'm a softie. If anyone reached out to me and say they want to be in community with me, I'm like, okay, welcome aboard. Let's see what we can agree on. But it was an op and it was a plan to try to siphon our revolutionary energy into a wasteful electoral politics plan. And since we didn't accept the wink and the nod from Dr. Cornel West, or not the doctor, remember, we invoked that. Cornball West, since we didn't fall for the trick, he now hates us for it. He hates us for not selling out to him the same way that Tim Black sold out to him. And now the worst part about Cornball West, because he didn't realize who he was fucking with. I see through you, sir. These manipulative tactics that you use on people, you using your star power and your celebrity, your thought that you was going to hypnotize RBN using your star power and celebrity, and you think that we was going to sacrifice our principles, you made the calculation that we was going to do it, you fucked around and found out. We see through you. Let's move on.
I told everybody from day one, Mr. Cornel West is a liberal. Look at the Sister Soldier video. We know who he is. He always sides with incremental progress, like a liberal. Yes, you're a liberal. I'm sorry if that offends you, but you just say all the things that liberals say. So
Zoya was there. Rome was there. CJ was warning about it. Misty was warning about it. But I was saying at the time, I was like, hey, man, I'm down talking with anybody. That's my position. And now I'm like, bro, I'm drawing the line at class now. I still believe that I should talk to everyone, but I'm drawing the line at class. I want to talk to working class people out here. I'm done with PMC people. We're not going to have this thing where I'm dancing with PMCs no more. That's what I learned. You know what I mean? So I still have that belief that I will talk to people I disagree with. But if you're against my class, no more benefit. I'm not doing it. It's a waste of my time unless we're outright debating, which Cornel West did not want to do. Because you guys see how Cornel West had a ton of objections to RBN, but he never brought it up to our face. Watch our interviews. Every objection that we had to Dr. Cornel West, I brought up to his face because I am from Kansas City, and that's what the fuck we do. If I have a problem with you, if we have a problem, we say it to our face. And these East Coast and Western elites, these coastal elites, they are not used to this kind of culture. That's why Brown Joy Gray, that's why Cornel West, that's why all these PMCs, they shrivel away. They hate RBN. Because in my culture, man, if there's a problem, we say it to each other's face. This is our Midwestern culture. Like being around these bourgeoisie coastal liberals who are afraid of confrontation, that is new to me, Rome, and CJ. Like that's completely against what we for. When people say RBN is always so confrontational, nigga, that's my culture. If you get shit wrong, you get confronted for it. If you do someone wrong, you get confronted for it. And we brought this culture to left media, into the left space, and it made countless PMCs uncomfortable. So that's why I'm not doing this dance no more. We're gonna talk our shit, and we don't care about your fucking opinions no more. I'm not allowing you guys to tone police us. And that's the root of every single criticism people have of us. It's just tone policing. Anyway, let's move on. Last super chat of the day, $2. Drink beer, smoke weed, house the homeless. Base as hell.
There were a few more.
Did I miss a few? I'll scroll up manually because I was just watching the super chats that they saved. I guess I read what I mean. Oh yeah, there was one more. Did I read this one? Rome's Library Project. Oh shit, this is a very generous super chat. Holy shit, we eating tonight. What's popping? Chat. Let's go up. Did I miss anyone? People hit me like, why you skip my super chats? Like, man, I'm not trying to skip your shit. I got no producer. I got the software I use save them manually, but sometimes it skips some.
Yeah, YouTube glitches all the time too.
Yeah, so I don't see anymore based on my manual feed. So, if you was to ask me, Nick, what is the secret to happiness? Super chat about covering it. I would say having fun and helping people. As I said on Kit, make sure you guys check out the full conversation I had with Kit, man. And I'm 100% sure of this now. This is the thought I'm gonna leave you guys with. If you guys watch my debate with Destiny have been begging people to debate him on Israel. I have an IDF soldier that I was trying to book for a debate for like a week now. We can't schedule a time. I'm trying to debate this IDF soldier. People are like, man, why won't people debate Destiny on Israel? He'd be calling for that. I've been begging for another debate with this motherfucker because we debated about fascism in America versus Russia. And I explained to Destiny, who was trying to pretend that Russia is like this hellscape. Do you guys understand that there's a mental illness crisis in this country that Big Pharma is lying to people about? And then I remember I reported on this a very long time ago, and people got mad at me. And then when I saw the backlash on this, I got more skeptical. Because I'm like, the same way when people got upset when people reported on the job, I'm like, why are you guys upset with me? Because there was a study that showed that there's no actual scientific evidence about brain chemical imbalances. And I read this article, and this person making an argument like this is new, and there's like no evidence to this. And I'm not saying that they're correct, but it's science. You have one person with one scientific point of view on the issue. I report on that, and the amount of hate I got from people. Obviously, some people liked it, but there are people who I would even classify as bad faith that was like, Nick, are you attacking and saying that my depression is illegitimate? Are you saying that brain chemical imbalances aren't real? And it was like a coordinated effort. I saw blue checks. I saw liberal like RBN denies chemical imbalances. So these people don't understand the kind of motherfucker I am. So when I saw that backlash, it made me even more skeptical. Why are people so obsessed over pushing this chemical imbalance bullshit? Do you guys know that we are by far the most heavily prescribed country by far in antidepressants? And this just started within the last 20 or 30 years. So based on the theory of chemical imbalances, they say there's just something naturally wrong with our brain and we need drugs to make it so we are not depressed. If that was true, why did we need them hundreds of years ago? Why was people happier before? You guys see how capitalists are trying to hide up the fact that they created a system that is bullshit? And I know they're not a segment. I'm literally riffing. And if I want to do a segment on this, I will literally get the numbers. So please forgive me. I will find it like when you compare the amount that we are prescribed compared to other countries, it's insane. I really wish I had the numbers on top of my head. But the people who push the chemical imbalances bullshit, they will really have you believe that our brains are uniquely broken in America. And I started questioning this shit because it never made sense to me at face value. And then as soon as I start questioning it, the pushback I got confirmed the fact that I was right. So in my debate with Destiny, I brought up the fact that if America is such a great country, why do you got so many people on prescription drugs? Why you got so many people are depressed? They don't have an answer for that. That's why they tell you guys that you guys gotta take these pills to make you happy, because what they're actually trying to do is create factory robots. When you are feeling depressed, that means something is wrong and that something needs to change in your life. You are not feeling fulfilled. You're not providing for your community. You're not actually doing something that engages your community that actually brings about human happiness. Studies show that hunting, gathering, being community is what really brings people happiness. But you guys accepted 60-hour work weeks. You guys do these long commutes, and you guys are isolated. Study after study show that Americans are the most lonely motherfuckers on the planet. This is what led to the mental illness crisis in America. And in order to cover that up, because they want more factory robots, they told you guys you have chemical imbalances and prescribe you antidepressants so you will shut the fuck up and work. So the reason why I went on this long spiel is because I am someone who struggled with mental illness in my early life. I explained before, I had suicidal thoughts when I was 18, 19. I thought I would die young. I had this very negative outlook on life because of trauma I had as a child. I thought that I would never be successful. I thought I would never amount to shit. I grew up with a speech impediment. I had a lot of fucking trauma growing up. And I wanted to kill myself in 18, 19. You guys know I never took one antidepressant my entire life. I got out of that through martial arts, through training, through getting into activism. I literally did when you know how I talk about decolonizing my mind. This is when I was going through the decolonization process. I completely changed the way I think about stuff. I completely changed my mindset from the capitalist individual mindset, the mindset that led to my depression in the first place. And I snapped out of my depression. I'm not saying this is what anyone can do, but this system is making people sick. And when you reject that, that is what leads to happiness. When you, quote unquote, drink beer, smoke weed, which I would substitute as just simply having fun, being around your community, engaging in mutual aid, taking care of yourself, that is what leads to happiness. And that is what Americans don't do, which lead to the mental health crisis. I may do a live stream about this one day. I used to be intimidated to talk about this because of backlash, but I am 100% convinced that this is the case now. I'm sorry to go on this unplanned rant. Zoya, I'll give you the last thought. Anything you want to add before you wrap up?
Oh, yeah, you get comfortable.
I went on a long rant, so it's your turn. Feel free.
Thank you for your patience, chat and Nick, but I have to do this. There's so many different things you brought up.
Zoe, like, I mean, why not even fucking start?
Yeah, dude, my brain's melting. Like, wow, which statistic? First, 80% of the world's opioid use is in America.
People think that. How can anyone think that's real? How can anyone think that's real? It's absurd. Sorry, Zoe, go ahead. That's absurd.
It's just these statistics. We do have a lot of comforts in America on the whole that the rest of the world doesn't. I mean, look at the genocide happening in Congo. I use every opportunity to bring it up, where there's little 5-year-olds digging in cobalt mines from morning till night. So we definitely have privileges in this country, even though we don't have what we deserve, and marginalized communities are far more deprived. Still, overall, everyone has a smartphone, internet for the most part on the whole, again, as a society. And still, with all of these toys, we are so depressed. And there's a documentary on Netflix that I encourage people to watch. It's not super important politically, but it's interesting. It's a study on blue zones. Blue zones are where there are high concentrations of centurions, people who live over 100. And they go globally from Japan to Costa Rica, all over the world. And time after time, what they find in these very different communities, different traditions, different religions, is that there's family, connection, community, nature, and healthy food. People do jobs that they love. They look forward to waking up in the morning and going to take care of very simple tasks that are theirs on their land with their neighbors who they've known their entire life. And by God, that makes people happy for some reason, and they live a really, really long time.
Who knows why?
It's just silly, weird. I know.
Who could have seen it coming that forcing people to work 60 hours a week and commuting 2 hours of them? Well, some people commute like an hour a day. When I used to work at Toyota, I used to work in Overland Park, deep in Overland Park, Kansas. I used to commute with traffic 35 minutes there a day, and then during rush hour at the end, I would take 45 minutes back. Every week, that was like 8 hours in traffic alone, then 60 hours at work every week. And then you're isolated, and people wonder why there's a mental health crisis in this country. And then these fake-ass scientists who we know are fucking full of shit because of the fucking jab bullshit, they look at people with a straight face and say, oh, there's nothing wrong with society. Your brain is just broken. And people think it's real. And people get upset when you talk about this because they're like, are you delegitimizing your depression? No. It was just misdiagnosed. There were maybe a very small percent a percent that you can say have remain consistent throughout the course of humanity of people who have just straight up mental illness. There's nothing they can really do to stay happy. I am willing to accept that there's a number of people like that. But the amount that they are telling you that are just mentally broken is absurd. Like you said, 80% of these drugs are sold in America. Do people really think that 80%, like for some reason, if you're born between the Atlantic and the Pacific Ocean and these very specific coordinates, there's going to be something that happens to your brain. If you just so happen to be born in North America, you're just more likely to be depressed because of fucking reason. Do people really believe that? Like if the theory of brain chemistry was true, wouldn't you see the depression rates even across the world, across the countries, because it's something that is based on human physiology or whatever? Like, so when I've been thinking about this, it doesn't even make sense when you think about it. This theory, the theory of brain imbalances, because it doesn't explain the differences. You guys know what I mean? But anyway, Joy, I'll give you the last one and we wrap up.
Historically, we know as these sprawling urban zones saw increases in population, we saw increases in suicide. So it is a long-standing fact that industrialization that brought people into these isolated jobs and more consumerism but less connection led to suicide. It's not even a question mark. Capitalism just wants to blame everything except itself for the conditions that are leading people to want to die. And last year, 2023, we have the highest suicides on record. What's happened in the last few years? You know, it's not, your brain chemistry wasn't changed. These are socioeconomic factors. We know that poverty is linked to suicide. They want to blame everything except for the conditions that they're creating. And having poor education is a contributing factor. And keeping people trapped in poverty is a contributing factor. And I want to talk about Aaron Bushnell's sacrifice, that everyone is trying to call him mentally ill when he practiced a form of what's known as altruistic suicide that has a centuries-long history and tradition, including Buddhist monks setting themselves on fire in protest of oppressive policies in Vietnam of the bourgeoisie. So this tradition has existed for a long time. And there's another documentary people can watch called 66 Days. It's about Bobby Sands, who was in the IRA. I promise I'll wrap this up soon, Nick.
But you good. I'm enjoying this. He
was in the IRA and he practiced violent direct action. He was arrested for bombing I forget what it was, some kind of building. This is obviously in resistance to UK. And he was arrested for that and jailed. And in jail, Bobby Sands, who obviously isn't a pacifist, who was already practicing violent direct action, he studied a lot of different revolutionary and protest tactics. And what he came up with, and by the way, I want to say that there's no wrong way to protest. Every way you protest is a good way to protest. Some things may be more effective than others, but us competing over which one is the best one is a complete waste of time, because we need to be doing absolutely all of them. You need to have someone on the inside making your demands. You need to have someone on the outside obstructing military vehicles from moving directly with their bodies. You need somebody to be protesting at the politician's house. All of it has value and all of it has its place. But Bobby Sands discovered that there's something unique that happens when you commit violence against yourself, that it forces your enemy to reconsider their position, because what you're doing to yourself is so difficult for a human being to comprehend, that you would be willing to put yourself through such suffering for something that you believe in, that it brings you sympathy to your side. You're also in the process not harming anyone else. So it is harder to vilify you, which is why they're mocking him and discrediting him as mentally ill, but they can't really vilify him because he didn't harm anyone except himself. So this kind of protest forces your enemy and even your allies to really examine the gravity of the situation, because you're willing to burn yourself alive. And there's nothing that's going to reach this level of impact other than an act like that. I'm not saying that everyone should do it. Everyone's like, don't endorse suicide. No one's doing that. We're not going to have some, outbreak of self-immolation that we have to contain. And I'm sorry, this might upset people, but I really do not like the fact that Americans want to bubble wrap reality not to get upset. People are dying. Babies are being fucking murdered. It is upsetting. You should see it. It should upset you. It should haunt your dreams. And it should do that until you're moved to act. Making yourself feel better and more comfortable by avoiding reality is a form of complacency. It's an apathy that has been instilled in you by this American system. And it is our job to overcome it. Now, I am also someone that has struggled with mental health issues. I'm not insensitive. I care about people. I had people that said, I just cannot watch this. I'm not in the right state of mind. Fine. I will respect personal wishes. But overall, when the Vietnam War was with all its gore and atrocities in every American's living room every night, we had one of the largest anti-war movements in history because people were forced to look at it. So we cannot afford to look away. Other people are living this. The least you can do is look. The least you could do is acknowledge reality and allow it to galvanize you into action. The tweet that Nick was showing was veterans protesting because they were so moved by Aaron Bushnell's act.
Yeah, they're burning their uniforms.
Yes, and Abby Martin's husband was there too, who's given a really famous speech. And Nick, can you please show the last tweet that I DM'd you? I want to show this tweet because I am always action oriented. I don't want to leave you guys ever just hopeless or just pointing out the problem.
Yeah, this is good. This is good. Let's go to this one.
So this is important, right? Because we've been saying for a while, the messaging is you shouldn't be in the military, you shouldn't be complicit, you shouldn't contribute to it. Well, here's a way out. So this says, please share widely. U.S. service members who no longer wish to be complicit in their government's role in genocide and war crimes can assert their rights as conscientious objectors. Contact the Center on Conscientious and War for assistance. So this tweet right here, you see the organization at CCW4COS. Please, if you're in military service, if you have friends in military service, if you're looking for a way out, if you can no longer be part of this, if you're seeing these images and it is moving you emotionally and you are looking for an exit strategy, there are many veteran organizations that understand you and will support you. Remember, a veteran commits suicide every 22 hours. This war destroys people domestically as well as abroad. And if you fell into the army trap because you were looking for an education, because you bought into brainwashed propaganda, because you were a patriot for a country you thought was spreading freedom and democracy, for God's sake, let Aaron Bushnell's sacrifice show you what the reality is. He said that this is what the ruling class wants to normalize. And he wasn't doing this to wake up any politicians. He was doing this to wake you up. He was showing you what he's willing to do, how far he's willing to go, so that you guys get up and organize, so that you don't be complicit in the belly of the beast. You know, Chase said that he envies Americans because we're in the belly of the beast. We have the opportunity to have the biggest influence over these terrorists. And right now, there are people protesting because of the Flower Massacre in the middle of Times Square. There's people protesting all over. Don't ever let them fool you into thinking that there's no one on the ground that wants to fight the system. You got to seek out these organizations. You got to seek out these people, and you got to organize in your communities. And my friends, another thing I really want to tell you is that there are 23 cop cities now being built in this country. We started with one, we're at 23 right now. The one in Memphis is exponentially bigger than the one that was being built in Atlanta. Who do you think they're building these cop cities for? Who do you think they're building these super prisons for? Our time is running out. Surveillance is getting heavier. All the violence you see abroad is originating domestically, and it's going to be reflected in our streets. How the Palestinians are treated today is a good look into all of our future. So even if you're not moved enough by other people's suffering, let self-preservation motivate you. Because I keep saying over and over every time I'm on that we got to do something, we got to organize. And I appeal to all of you, please do not just watch these podcasts, turn them off, and go back to your regular, ordinary capitalist lives. Whatever your means, whatever your opportunities, I know we're all tired and angry and we need help, but unless we save ourselves, no one is going to save us. So whatever action, no matter how small it is, if you're just going to help your neighbor get groceries, anything you can do to build community, to organize, to form mutual aids, do it. Do it today. Do not wait another day. Do not think that you are powerless. You are powerful. And like little drops of water, we can be an ocean.
Yeah. And the last thing I want to share, so we mentioned Aaron Bushnell. You guys see how desperate the media and Zionist propagandists are trying to pretend that he died for no reason. They're desperate to put this out there when it's the exact opposite. Like, we should be honored that we witnessed the birth of an anti-genocide legend that will be remembered forever. I had a viral tweet why explain this, because we were using a series of there were a lot of social media posts on Yemen, and that's why we knew about this, because there was a corporate media blackout. So as they was pretending that he died for no reason, there was a massive demonstration where they honored Aaron Bushnell in Yemen. And as you see here, and the reason why we know this is because of social media sources. They're building a statue in his honor in Yemen. Look at this. Aaron Bushnell has become a symbol of freedom and humanity. We will build a statue for him in Yemen to honor his brave deeds. So for all the people, all the psychopaths that say he died for no reason, when you die, 100 years later, who's going to remember your dumb ass for all the people who smear him? No one's going to remember you. You're just going to be another cog in the machine, another factory robot at the end of the day that accomplished nothing. This man will be remembered forever. You guys understand? I've seen people all over the world share his story. So in America, he's going to be demonized by the majority of the populace. He's going to be forgetting, because you know how the winners, they write history. So maybe in the UK and the United States, he may be forgotten. But around the world, fam, in his new rising resistance to the United States, Israel, UK, new axis of evil, across the global south and in the Middle East, this man will be remembered as a legend forever. If you guys don't believe me, I don't have time. There's another statement I'm going to do. I'm going to cut this segment too. When you was talking about, I think it's a good Aaron Bushnell segment, Aaron, if you're watching. There are just a few of these. I was obsessed with what I think I woke up one morning, I was obsessed reading this, because it warmed my heart to know that he would be honored as a hero. You know what I mean? Here's just a few reactions of Yemen social media regarding Aaron Bushnell and reaction in the Middle East. Humanity knows no religion or homeland. May God have mercy on him and accept him as a martyr along with all martyrs of Gaza. Shame and shame on the Arabs and Muslims and countries other than Yemen who did not even go out in demonstrations. An American working in the United States Army, a pilot, burned himself in front of a Zionist embassy in Washington, rejecting the massacres of Gaza, while some Zionist Arabs, devoid of honor and manliness, bless these massacres against our people in Gaza. Allah is greatest. By God, his shoelaces are greater than those of our Arab leaders. This one person said that Aaron Bushnell, his shoelaces are greater than those of Arab leaders. And I'm literally only showing you guys just a few. Here's the last one I read. The arrow kind of blocking the word, but I said, has a better conscience than the Arabs who watched the massacre in Gaza and did nothing. So the point is, this man's a legend. His sacrifice will be remembered forever. But I guess I'll wrap up. We just did, I guess, like 2 random segments at the end, but it's all good. So it's all.
Let me add. I forgot to finish the Bobby Sands story. I got so emotional over Aaron. So Bobby Sands decided to starve himself to death as a peaceful protest. It took him 66 days to starve to death, and he did die. This was to protest the UK and its policies in prison and otherwise. He also was followed by 9 other prisoners who he organized, former members of the IRA, and they all were one by one live as the world watched. They went blind. They lost their ability to move, and people were begging them to stop. First, they called them crazy. Then they called them stupid. They called them anything and everything. The priests were coming, everybody just begging them not to do this. But they committed to starve themselves to death in protest of empire. And that commitment, it forced even their enemies to show empathy and reconsider their policies. And British policy did change. And Iran, to honor Bobby Sands, named the street in Iran after Bobby Sands. And the street they chose were where the UK embassy was, so that the UK embassy has to use his name as their address. So these sacrifices have historical precedence, and they have always made an impact. Do not ever let the system make you feel small, because that's what it wants you to believe, that you will not make an impact and you cannot make an impact. But you, my friends, are the most dangerous thing in this world. You have all the power. Use it.
Zoe is love. Zoe is life. Way too powerful not to give the last word. So that's exactly what I'm gonna do. I appreciate you guys for watching. Man, Nick and Zoe is so fun. We definitely gotta do this again very soon. Zoe is love. Zoe is life. Thank you for joining me. I'll be back Saturday at noon. Make sure you guys support us on Patreon. I appreciate everyone who supported the channel while the generous super chats. Thank you guys. Have a great night. Stay blessed. Take care.